Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales. Chapter 875. You want to kill Ming, Guo Qingqing's face turned pale. Mu Qing glanced at Guo Qingqing and said, "Do you need me to say it again?" Guo Qingqing's heart was struggling. "Leader, I told you before that you must discipline him well, but you didn't believe me and insisted on spoiling him. Now, he's provoked the Mu clan. What kind of existence is the Mu clan? Can you offend them? Hurry up and bring him here, otherwise it may be a disaster of extermination." Seeing this, the high priest transmitted his voice anxiously with a hint of reproach. Guo Qingqing's eyes trembled, and he bowed to Mu Qing and said, "I'll bring him here right away, please wait a moment. My patience has its limits." Mu Qing laughed. "I understand." Guo Qingqing nodded, turned into a stream of light, and sped towards the city. Boom! At the same time, a mighty emperor's aura rushed out of the Mu clan's second ancestor's body, like an invisible giant wave, rushing towards the city. Wherever it passed, the people of the Scorpion tribe, except for the high priest and Guo Qingqing, were all imprisoned. In just a moment, the pressure spread to the entire city. The high priest's face suddenly changed, and he hurriedly said, "Lord, have mercy. Don't worry. I won't do it now, just to prevent some people from having crooked ideas." The Mu clan's second ancestor said. Hearing these words, Guo Qingqing, who was flying towards the city, trembled slightly. The only remaining hope was ruthlessly obliterated. Originally, he planned to wait until he found Guo Ming and let Guo Ming leave the tribe and go outside to hide for a while. But now, the pressure of the Mu clan's second ancestor controlled everyone in the Scorpion tribe. If he dared to do so, the millions of people in the tribe would definitely be doomed. Unfilial son! He roared in grief and indignation and quickly disappeared into the city. After a while, he twisted into Guo Ming and flew out of the city. There were two eye-catching palm prints on Guo Ming's face. Without a doubt, it must be Guo Qingqing. When he saw Mu Qing and the high priest, Guo Ming was also terrified. Obviously, he had already found out about Mu Qing's true identity. Guo Qingqing flew over and casually threw Guo Ming in front of Mu Qing and Mu Qing. He said, "I'll pretend that I don't have this son. You can do whatever you want with him." "Very good." Mu Qing nodded and looked down at Guo Ming. Guo Ming's face was pale with fright. He was so scared that he couldn't even speak. Actually, in the Forgotten Continent, not many people knew about the Mu family. But anyone who knew would know how powerful the Mu family was. This was a colossus that absolutely could not be provoked. Even if it's a super tribe, they still have to bow down in front of the Mu Jia. "Why aren't you talking?" Mu Qing asked suspiciously. "Say what?" Guo Ming asked. He was completely scared silly. "Didn't you want to kill me? Now that I'm right in front of you, why aren't you making a move?" Mu Qing said. Guo Ming panicked to the extreme. If he had known that Qin Dai was the young master of the Mu family, he wouldn't have dared to kill him even if he was beaten to death. Bang! Mu Qing raised his eyebrows, lifted his foot and kicked Guo Ming's lower abdomen. Ah! Guo Ming immediately let out a shrill scream. He was kicked out and rolled into the void not far away. "Crawl back here." Mu Qing looked down at him overbearingly. Guo Ming didn't dare to. He lay in the void and looked at Guo Qingqing and the high priest for help. However, Guo Qingqing and the high priest pretended not to see. "Don't look at them. No one can save you now. Since you're not coming, I'll go find you." Mu Qing laughed. As he spoke, he took out a dagger. As he walked towards Guo Ming, he stretched out his hand and gently rubbed the blade. His attitude was extremely arrogant. But no one in the Scorpion tribe dared to speak. Such a big tribe was dead silent. Everyone was panicking. "Don't come over," Guoming quivered and hurriedly waved his hand. He was so scared that he almost peed. "If I don't go over just because you told me not to, then wouldn't I lose face?" Mu Qing laughed and stopped in front of Guoming. "How you treated me at the Rolling Clouds mountain range, now I'll treat you the same. Are you ready?" "No," Guoming's body trembled violently. He hurriedly hugged Mu Qing's thigh and begged, "Just treat me as a dog. Let me go, okay? I can't raise a dog like you." Mu Qing shook his head and smiled. Suddenly, he picked up Guoming and stabbed the dagger in his hand into Guoming's lower abdomen. His sea of qi was destroyed on the spot. Fresh blood gushed out like a fountain. "Ah!" Guoming covered his lower abdomen and screamed again and again. His face was already distorted. "And your heart?" Mu Qing licked his lips and stabbed Guoming's heart again. "I really didn't mean it. Please let me go." Guoming roared. Blood gushed out and he had become a bloody man. But Mu Qing turned a deaf ear and grinned, "I remember that you also slapped me a few times." His words fell. He put away the dagger, raised his arm and slapped Guoming's face again and again. For a moment, blood splattered everywhere. Guoming's teeth were smashed into smithereens, and he spat them out along with blood. At the same time, Grand Canyon, Qin Feiyang, Wolf King, and the black-robed old woman were all looking in the direction of the Scorpion tribe. Because they had all sensed the pressure of the Mu family's second ancestor. 2 people and 1 wolf could sense it. The great elder of the Scorpion tribe naturally could also sense it. At this moment, the great elder stood on the balcony of the small wooden house and looked in the direction of the tribe. His old eyes were full of surprise. Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of something. He retracted his gaze and looked at the great elder. Then he looked at the black-robed old woman and asked in a low voice, "Old witch, what's your cultivation? What did you call me?" The black-robed old woman angrily said. Qin Feiyang said, "Old witch, is that wrong?" The black-robed old woman gritted her teeth and said, "Boy, when the cooperation is over, I promise to kill you with my own hands." Qin Feiyang impatiently said, "We'll talk about it when the time comes. First answer me, what's your cultivation? What do you want to do?" The black-robed old woman frowned. Qin Feiyang said, "I want to see if you're as strong as I imagined." The black-robed old woman was stunned and suddenly became interested. She said, "Then in your imagination, how strong am I?" 1-star War Emperor. Qin Feiyang thought for a moment and said. The black-robed old woman's forehead suddenly crawled with a row of black lines. She angrily said, "You're underestimating me too much. Let me tell you, I'm a genuine 2-star War Emperor." 2-star War Emperor? Qin Feiyang was astonished and said with a smile, "I didn't expect you to be so strong. However, compared to the great elder of the Scorpion tribe, you're still far behind. I'm indeed not his opponent, but I don't plan to fight him head-on. What's there to be afraid of?" The black-robed old woman indifferently glanced at Qin Feiyang. Her gaze was as if she was looking at an idiot. "What's there to be afraid of? Just wait, I'll let you die here." Qin Feiyang mumbled as a shocking murderous intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. Originally, he only wanted to snatch the herbs, but after knowing the black-robed old woman's true cultivation, he changed his mind. Not only did he have to snatch the herbs, but he also had to kill this old witch. Back then in the 9 great areas, this old witch had repeatedly tried to kill him. He hadn't forgotten this debt. Whoosh! And at this moment, the great elder of the Scorpion tribe jumped up from the balcony and stood high up in the sky. He continued to look in the direction of the tribe. Who exactly came to my Scorpion tribe? The pressure is so terrifying that I can even feel it from here. No, I have to go and take a look. The great elder muttered to himself for a while before turning into a stream of light and flying towards the tribe. He's finally gone. The black-robed old woman looked at the great elder's back with unconcealable joy in her eyes. Qin Feiyang's eyes were also surging with light. After the great elder disappeared, Qin Feiyang looked at the black-robed old woman and said with a smile, "Go quickly, I'll keep a lookout for you here." "Keep a lookout?" The black-robed old woman was stunned and said in surprise, "You're so kind. No matter what, we're in the same boat now. Of course we have to help each other. Go quickly, you can share half with me later." Qin Feiyang said. "Okay, I'll definitely share it with you." The black-robed old woman nodded with a smile, but when she got up, her eyes flashed with ridicule. "Share? Naive." Then, she jumped up and rushed towards the medicine field below. "Do you really think I'm so kind? Idiot." Looking at the black-robed old woman's back, Qin Feiyang's face also crawled with a trace of undisguised ridicule. He quickly took out an illusory form pill and threw it into his mouth. His appearance immediately began to change rapidly. Soon, an unfamiliar face appeared in front of Wolf King. "Whose appearance are you disguised as?" Wolf King was surprised. "Remember the two white-robed youths who challenged me in the Pill Pagoda?" Qin Feiyang asked with a smile. "Remember, you said that they were also from the Scorpion tribe." Wolf King nodded. "I'm now disguised as one of the two of them," Qin Feiyang said. "What do you want to do?" Wolf King was puzzled. "Wait for a good show." Qin Feiyang smiled. Although it was slow, the whole process was less than 3 breaths. The black-robed old woman had already entered the medicine field and was frantically sweeping it. Qin Feiyang smiled coldly, got up and looked at the direction where the great elder disappeared, and anxiously shouted, "Great elder, come quickly, someone is looting the medicine field." His voice was very loud and clear, resounding through the sky. Wolf King was stunned, and then suddenly realized, and his eyes revealed a look of ridicule. "You go hide first." Qin Feiyang looked at Wolf King and said. Without waiting for Wolf King's response, he sent Wolf King to the castle. Then, he strode to the top of the mountain. "What's the situation?" At the same time, the black-robed old woman raised her head and looked at Qin Feiyang, her old face full of shock. "Who are you? How dare you touch the medicinal herbs of my Scorpion tribe?" Qin Feiyang glared at the black-robed old woman and shouted with a stern voice. That angry look was really like a member of the Scorpion tribe who found a thief. "What's going on?" The black-robed old woman was stunned. Weren't Qin Feiyang and Wolf King on the lookout? How could a member of the Scorpion tribe appear? She didn't recognize that the person in front of her was Qin Feiyang. Whoosh! Just as the black-robed old woman was stunned, a white figure broke through the sky like lightning. It was the great elder of the Scorpion tribe. When he saw the black-robed old woman standing in the medicine field, his old face suddenly revealed a shocking killing intent. Courting death. Chapter 876. In an instant, the Grand Elder arrived in front of the black-robed old woman. That aged hand suddenly lifted up, roaring with battle chi as it slapped towards the black-robed old woman. Killing intent enveloped all directions. The black-robed old woman finally regained her senses, and her expression changed greatly. But at this moment, it was too late for her to dodge. She could only hurriedly raise her hand and meet the Grand Elder head-on. Boom! When the two palms collided, the black-robed old woman's body trembled, and then she flew out like a meteorite. Blood wildly spurted out from her mouth. Just one palm was enough to heavily injure the black-robed old woman. This was the difference between a 5-star combat emperor and a 2-star combat emperor. "It's you, Mu Li." The Grand Elder finally saw the black-robed old woman's true face and angrily said, "Why did you come to rob my Sky Scorpion tribe's medicine field?" The black-robed old woman didn't reply. Using the impact of the impact, she turned around and fled in panic. Want to leave? Not so easy. The Grand Elder's hair stood on end in anger. Using a mysterious footwork, he quickly chased after the black-robed old woman. Looking at the Grand Elder's speed, Qin Feiyang's pupils contracted. This Grand Elder actually grasped a perfect support-type battle art. He looked at the black-robed old woman again. He discovered that the old witch was also using a strange footwork. Moreover, her speed was 4 times faster than usual. This meant that the old witch also grasped a perfect support-type battle art. The foundation of these super forces really can't be underestimated. Qin Feiyang mumbled. But then, the corners of his mouth pursed into a bone-chilling cold. Although the black-robed old woman also had a perfect support-type battle art, the difference between her and the Sky Scorpion tribe's Grand Elder's cultivation was too great. She couldn't escape at all. And now, the furious Grand Elder definitely wouldn't let her go. Similarly, she couldn't find a reason to defend herself now. After all, she was caught red-handed by the Grand Elder. Therefore, she would definitely die. Boom! As expected. After the Grand Elder caught up to the black-robed old woman, he directly punched her back without any mercy. Pooh! The black-robed old woman spat out a mouthful of blood, dyeing the sky red. Her entire body was like a meteor, crashing into a giant mountain in front of her. The giant mountain collapsed on the spot. The rumbling sound was like rolling thunder, deafening to the ears. My Scorpio tribe has always been respectful to your Mu clan, but I didn't expect you to come and rob my medicinal field. You've gone too far. The great clan elder's killing intent soared to the heavens as he pointed his finger at the collapsed mountain peak. The black-robed old woman also appeared. But at this moment, she was covered in wounds and lying quietly in a pool of blood. She seemed to have lost all signs of life. The great clan elder glanced at her, then turned around and landed in front of Qin Feiyang. The anger on his face dissipated quite a bit, and he said with a smile, "Fortunately you discovered it in time, otherwise our losses this time would be great." Yeah. Qin Feiyang nodded, but he was still a little nervous. After all, his opponent was a 5-star combat emperor. If they found out that he was an imposter, it would be disastrous. "Oh right, aren't you in the main tower? Why did you suddenly come back?" The Grand Elder looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "Recently, I've been refining a kind of medicinal pill. I need a few 10,000-year-old herbs, so I came back to see if there are any in the medicinal field." Qin Feiyang calmly said. "What herbs? You don't have any in the main tower?" the great clan elder asked. Qin Feiyang was a little annoyed. Why does this old man have so many questions? Bang! But at this time, an earth-shattering loud noise came from the distance. Huh! Qin Feiyang and the great clan elder looked up at the same time. The loud noise came from the direction of the Scorpio tribe. It seems that they've already made their move. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, then he turned to look at the great clan elder and asked, "What's the situation?" This old man doesn't know. Just now, this old man has already felt a terrible pressure. The great clan elder said. "Pressure? Who dares to make trouble in my Scorpio tribe?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. "This old man will go and take a look, you find the herbs you need and immediately return to the main tower," the great clan elder said. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded, then he looked at the black-robed old woman's body and said, "What should we do with her?" "Don't touch her body. After dealing with the tribe's affairs, this old man will take her and personally go to the Wuxia. Let the Wuxia give this old man a reasonable explanation." The great clan elder's eyes flashed coldly, then he turned into a stream of light and quickly flew away. Phew! Looking at the great clan elder's departure, Qin Feiyang finally breathed a sigh of relief. Because he really didn't know how to answer the great clan elder's question. After the great clan elder completely disappeared, he waved his hand and Lu Hong, the pangolin, wolf king, the winged snow eagle, and the black dragon snake all appeared. "Hurry up!" Qin Feiyang said. Everyone looked at each other and immediately rushed to the medicinal field. Qin Feiyang also flew up and landed next to the black-robed old woman's body. Before, the black-robed old woman had already swept away a lot of medicinal herbs, so he naturally couldn't let go of these. He squatted on the ground, reached out and fumbled in the black-robed old woman's clothes, and soon found a qianquan bag. Cough! But just as he was about to check the qianquan bag, the black-robed old woman lying motionless on the ground suddenly coughed. Not dead? Qin Feiyang's face changed, quickly stepped back a few steps, looking at the black-robed old woman in surprise. After a burst of coughing, the black-robed old woman's eyelids moved. She's really not dead, her life is so hard? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Suddenly, his eyes flashed coldly, took out the chang shui, rushed forward and stabbed the black-robed old woman's sea of qi. Ah! The black-robed old woman screamed in pain, immediately opened her eyes, stared at Qin Feiyang with resentment, and roared, "You damned little bastard, I'm going to kill you." Qin Feiyang had not recovered his true appearance, so the black-robed old woman did not know that the young man squatting in front of her was Qin Feiyang. "Kill me?" Qin Feiyang slowly got up and said, "Now that your sea of qi has been destroyed and the qianquan bag is in my hands, what do you have to kill me?" Hearing it, the black-robed old woman's heart sank. "Right, look at my memory, you don't seem to know who I am." Qin Feiyang patted his head, took out a facial restoration pill, and threw it into his mouth. Soon, a familiar face appeared in the black-robed old woman's line of sight. "It's you." The black-robed old woman's eyes trembled. "That's right, it's me. You didn't expect that you would be tricked by me so miserably?" Qin Feiyang grinned, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. "Damn it, we are now in a cooperative relationship," the black-robed old woman angrily said. "So what? Anyway, sooner or later, we will fall out, so it's better to find an opportunity now and kill one first. What's more, I also know that you will certainly not share the medicinal herbs with me. In that case, I can only rely on my own ability to rob. Now, all the medicinal herbs here are mine." Qin Feiyang laughed. The black-robed old woman glanced at Lu Hong and the others who were frantically sweeping the place, gritted her teeth and said, "The second ancestor will not let you go. Don't worry. Your second ancestor will not know that I killed you. When the time comes, I will tell him that the great elder of the Scorpion tribe killed you. Moreover, even if he knows, I don't care. Don't take yourself too seriously. You are just a housekeeper, the Mu Jia will not hurt me because of you." Qin Feiyang laughed, rubbing Chang Shui's blade, his eyes flashed with killing intent. "What do you want to do?" Seeing this, the black-robed old woman hurriedly shouted, her blood-stained face was full of panic. Qin Feiyang grinned and said, "What do you think I want to do?" "Don't kill me," the black-robed old woman panicked. She never thought that one day, she would beg Qin Feiyang for mercy. Qin Feiyang was stunned and jokingly said, "Then give me a reason not to kill you." The black-robed old woman hesitated, she really couldn't find a reason for a while. "How about this? If you are willing to tell me the origin and details of the Mu Jia, I can spare your life," Qin Feiyang said. "Then you'd better kill me," the black-robed old woman said, her eyes were filled with a determined light. "Well, as you wish." Qin Feiyang's eyes were stunned, his big hand suddenly waved, the chang shui in his hand, like a sharp arrow, instantly went into the black-robed old woman's eyebrows. Ah! With a mournful scream, the black-robed old woman died on the spot. This time she really died. Qin Feiyang looked down at her, his eyebrows tightly knitted together. She would rather die than tell him the details of the Wuxia. What secret is this Wuxia hiding? Shua. At this time, Wolf King came to Qin Feiyang's side and said, "Did you get anything?" Qin Feiyang shook his head. "It seems that we have to rely on Fatso and Yen Wei to investigate." After saying this, the Wolf King continued to sweep through the medicinal herbs. Qin Feiyang bent down and pulled out the Chang Shui, then took out the black-robed old woman's Qiankuan bag to check. He wanted to see if he could find any information about the Wuxia in this Qiankuan bag. But in the end, he was disappointed. In this Qiankuan bag, except for various herbs, pills, gold coins, and some ordinary weapons, there was nothing else. Boom! Kacha! Suddenly, in the distance, there was another deafening noise. Qin Feiyang put away the Chang Shui and the Qiankuan bag, jumped into the sky, looked up, and suddenly turned pale with fright. He saw that the giant peaks in the distance were constantly collapsing. The earth was trembling and sinking. Waves of magma erupted from the ground, like pillars of fire, rushed into the sky, illuminating half of the sky. From afar, it was like the scene of the end of the world. Moreover, Qin Feiyang also heard a metallic sound in the loud sound of the mountains collapsing and the earth cracking. It was obvious. Someone took out a sacred weapon. And more than one. He could even feel the sacred power and sharpness of those sacred weapons. "Kill for me." Not long after, a loud and clear roar exploded in the area, and a murderous aura filled the sky. This was the voice of the Wuxia's second ancestor. Boom! The moment the Wuxia's second ancestor's shout sounded, in all directions of the Sky Scorpion mountain range, a terrifying emperor's aura erupted. Qin Feiyang couldn't help but tremble. Obviously, the 30 strong men surrounding the Sky Scorpion mountain range also made their move. This also means that the battle between the Wuxia and the Sky Scorpion tribe has officially begun. Hurry up! Qin Feiyang withdrew his gaze and looked down at Lu Hong and the others, urging them. Because there is still a place he must go. Chapter 877. As a super tribe that had existed for so many years, the Scorpion tribe must have accumulated a lot of treasures. About 100 breaths later, Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts landed beside Qin Feiyang one after another. Their eyes were filled with unparalleled excitement. Qin Feiyang asked, "Are we done?" Lu Hong nodded. "The medicinal herbs we harvested this time can't be calculated with numbers. There were all kinds of rare medicinal herbs. And most of them were 10,000 years old. In terms of value, it was no exaggeration to say that it was more than what they had accumulated over the years." "Very good." Qin Feiyang was also overjoyed. He said, "Except for the white-eyed wolf, all of you go to the castle and sort it out as soon as possible." "Okay." Lu Hong, the black dragon snake, and the other beasts nodded. Qin Feiyang waved his hand. After sending everyone to the castle, he took a facial restoration pill and restored his original appearance. Then, he rushed out of the canyon with Wolf King and rushed toward the Scorpion tribe. They were very fast. In less than 100 breaths, they arrived in front of a majestic mountain ridge. Here, the battle fluctuations were even more obvious. The mountain ridge, which was hundreds of feet tall, was also trembling violently. Cracks appeared on it, and it would collapse at any time. Whoosh! A man and a wolf rushed up like lightning. They stood at a commanding height and looked ahead. What appeared before their eyes was a scene that resembled a Jura hell. The mountain was collapsing, the ground was cracking, and the people were in a terrible situation. Terrifying waves of air rolled in the void like a tsunami. There were many ferocious beasts in the mountain range. And they were not weak. There were even holy beasts. But under the waves of air, they were like withered trees, unable to withstand a single blow. As far as the eye could see, there was blood everywhere. Wails and cries were everywhere. And standing here, they could already faintly see the city of the Scorpion tribe, but it was very blurry. "Let's go." Qin Feiyang waved his hand and was about to jump down from the mountain ridge and approach the city. Whoosh! But at this moment, an ear-piercing sound broke through the air. The two of them turned their heads and saw a black streak of light carrying a destructive aura shooting towards them from afar. "What is it?" Wolf King was bewildered. "It's a saint artifact." Qin Feiyang took a closer look and turned pale with fright. It was a heavenly halberd that was more than 3 meters long. Its entire body was as black as ink, and it emitted a blazing black light. Logically speaking, Qin Feiyang should be happy that a saint artifact was flying towards him. However, this saint artifact was currently in a state of complete recovery. If he were to descend here, with his and Wolf King's current cultivation, they would not be able to stop him. They might even be killed on the spot, and not even their bones would be left. Therefore, now was not the time to be hot-headed and run to catch that sky piercer. Boom! Crack! In front of the man and the wolf, there were several giant peaks that were several thousand feet tall. However, the heavenly halberd was like a hot knife through butter as it smashed everything into smithereens. Then, it smashed into the mountain below their feet. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang did not dare to hesitate. He grabbed Wolf King and hid in the ancient castle. Boom! Accompanied by an earth-shaking loud noise, the place was suddenly covered in dust and smoke. About 10 breaths passed. The man and the wolf appeared again. The mountain had disappeared, and there was a huge sinkhole on the ground. Dust and smoke were everywhere. Qin Feiyang waved his sleeves, and a gust of wind suddenly rose in this place. The dust and smoke were quickly blown away. Next, the man and the wolf looked at the bottom of the sinkhole. They saw that the heavenly halberd was now inserted into the soil at the bottom. The sharpness and saint aura that it emitted previously had disappeared. Its entire body was dim and lightless. What's the situation? Wolf King was bewildered. I think this saint artifact should belong to the Scorpion tribe. And the owner of this saint artifact may have met with misfortune. Qin Feiyang pondered. Then what are we waiting for? Heard of it? Wolf King's eyes glowed with a green light as he rushed to the bottom of the sinkhole. Whoosh! However, at this moment, another air-piercing sound was heard. Qin Feiyang's expression changed. He quickly raised his head and looked over. He saw a black figure rushing over. Wolf King also noticed it. He quickly landed at the bottom of the sinkhole and directly spat a mouthful of blood on the heavenly halberd. The heavenly halberd also emitted a layer of hazy blood light. It was dripping blood to recognize its owner. When the blood light dissipated, the blood contract was completed. I've made a fortune. Wolf King smiled and waved his paw. The heavenly halberd turned into a stream of light and entered his sea of qi. Next, he jumped up and landed next to Qin Feiyang. He looked up at the black figure. There was a trace of vigilance between the man and the wolf. As the distance got closer and closer, Qin Feiyang and Wolf King finally saw the man's true face. It was a strong man in black. His body was covered in blood and filled with an astonishing murderous aura. But they couldn't find a single wound on his body. Obviously, the blood was someone else's. Qin Feiyang and the Wolf King also secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Because this man was not from the Scorpio tribe. He was one of the 30 strong men of the Wuxia. The strong man in black also found Qin Feiyang and Wolf King. Whoosh! He landed in front of Qin Feiyang and looked at the sinkhole next to him. Did you see a heavenly halberd flying over? The man and the wolf were shocked. It turned out that this man was chasing after the heavenly halberd. What heavenly halberd? I didn't see it. The man and the wolf shook their heads at the same time. You didn't see it? But why do I feel the aura of a sacred tool here? The strong man in black was suspicious. He seemed to suspect that Qin Feiyang and Wolf King were lying. What? That heavenly halberd is a sacred tool? Wolf King pretended to be surprised and then angrily said. What do you mean? Are you suspecting that we stole your sacred tool? Then he added. Don't you know that we also have sacred tools? Don't be rude. Qin Feiyang reprimanded. Soon after, he looked at the black-clothed brawny man and said with a smile, not long ago, we encountered a member of the Scorpion tribe. His strength was slightly stronger than ours, so we took out our saint artifacts to fight with him. This crater was created during our fight. Is that really the case? The strong man in black murmured. Of course, he also knew that Qin Feiyang had two sacred tools. Among them, the heavenly thunder sword originally belonged to the Wuxia. But now, except for the sacred tool and Qin Feiyang's aura, he didn't sense anyone else's aura. This Wuxia's people are really not easy to fool. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. He hurriedly changed the topic. What's the situation of the Scorpio tribe? The overall situation is under control. The strong man in black only said this sentence, showing a full domineering aura. Qin Feiyang nodded and said. Although the situation is under your control, you still have to be careful. Don't let any of them escape. You can rest assured. With the second ancestor here, not to mention the people of the Scorpio tribe, even a fly can't escape from the Scorpio mountain range. The strong man in black said confidently. That's good. Qin Feiyang pretended to be relieved. In fact, whether this matter was exposed or not, it didn't have much to do with him. Because from entering the Scorpio mountain range until now, except for the people of the Wuxia, the people of the Scorpio tribe had never seen him. In other words, the Scorpio tribe didn't know that he existed. So, even if this matter was exposed, the Pill Tower and other tribes would only look for the Wuxia and not him. You really didn't see the halberd? The strong man in black asked again. Are we that untrustworthy? We really didn't. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. Well, you guys be careful. The black-clothed brawny man said, then turned around and flew away. Qin Feiyang seemed to think of something and asked loudly. By the way, what is Mu Qing doing now? The young master went to the treasure house of the Scorpio tribe. The strong man in black answered without looking back. Damn! He's one step ahead of us. Wolf King said angrily. If we can think of it, he must have thought of it too. Qin Feiyang sighed deeply. Mu Qing went to the treasure house. It was meaningless for them to go now. Because by the time they rushed there, Mu Qing would have already swept away everything. However, even if they didn't get the treasures in the treasure house, they didn't lose too much. After all, they harvested the medicinal herbs of the entire medicinal field and also got an extra sacred tool. What should we do next? Wolf King asked. We can't get involved in the battle between the Scorpio tribe and the Wuxia. The medicinal field and the treasure house are gone. There's nothing we can do now. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said. Let's just go back and retreat. Yes, we need to cultivate well. Wolf King nodded. The people they met now are getting stronger and stronger. With their strength, they can no longer control the overall situation. The battle in the Scorpio tribe continued. Corpses were everywhere, and blood flowed like a river. But all this had nothing to do with Qin Feiyang. He opened a portal and sent Wolf King to the castle and went straight back to the main tower. Shortly after Qin Feiyang went back, Fatso also rushed back to the alchemy room. What's wrong? Qin Feiyang was washing up. Seeing Fatso's anxious look, he couldn't help but ask. Fatso said. Hurry up and refine another small fortune pill. Huh? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He wiped the water off his face and turned to look at Fatso. He frowned. Did you fail? Fatso nodded. Old Yan's character is not very good. He failed to open the 7th floor. The 7th floor is the ultimate realm of the War Saint. That's too much. This small fortune pill only has a 60% success rate. Being able to open the 6th floor is already a miracle. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at Fatso and strode towards the alchemy room. Fatso followed and asked. What's the situation in the Scorpio tribe? Qin Feiyang said. I don't know, but according to the Wuxia, there shouldn't be any accidents. You don't know? Fatty was startled and asked suspiciously, didn't you go too? How can you not know? Qin Feiyang said. I went, but I didn't participate in the battle. I didn't go to the Scorpio tribe. Then what are you doing? Fatso wondered. I looted the medicinal herbs in the Scorpio tribe's medicinal field and got a sacred tool. Qin Feiyang laughed. Damn, then didn't you make a lot of money? Fatso was stunned. Chapter 878. It's a huge profit. Qin Feiyang laughed, and said, where did you guys help Yen Wei open the door of potential? Fire Phoenix Mountain Range. Fat Lord is not sure what kind of place it is, but according to Li He, it is a primordial forest, extremely dangerous, and basically no one goes there. Fatso said. While the two of them were talking, they had already entered the alchemy room. Fatso took out a set of medicinal ingredients for the small creation pill. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes and concentrated for a moment before opening the furnace to refine the pill. During the process of refining the pill, Fatso did not make the slightest sound. Soon, a small creation pill was out of the furnace. Qin Feiyang threw it to Fatso, and said, quickly send it to him. No rush, no rush. He is still recuperating from his injuries. It will take a while before he can continue to open it. First, tell me the specific situation of the Scorpio mountain range. Fatso was like a curious baby, looking at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. He walked into the lounge and simply said. Haha, that old witch was actually tricked so miserably by you. It's really satisfying. After listening, Fatso couldn't help but laugh out loud. Although we have gotten rid of a scourge, it is also a great pity that we didn't get the treasures of the Scorpio tribe. Qin Feiyang shook his head. In this world, there are gains and losses. Moreover, the people that the Mu clan sent out this time are all War King. Even if Mu Qin didn't go, you might not be able to snatch the treasures from the treasury under their noses. At that time, you might even attract a lot of attention. Fatso said. Qin Feiyang nodded and said with a smile, then what was Li He's reaction when he saw the potential pills? 2 words to describe it, shock. Right now, he can't wait to swear a blood oath with you and become sworn brothers. Fatso laughed. Qin Feiyang asked, then what's your next plan? I have already told Li He about this matter, and he has also expressed that he will do his best to assist me. He has also allowed me and Yen Wei to work in the trading pavilion. Fatso said. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang nodded and said, that's good too. If you work in the trading pavilion, you'll be able to notice the mysterious person buying the herbs. Next. He frowned and said, does Li He know nothing about this person? It's not like you don't know about the trading pavilion. As long as there's money to be made, who cares who you are? However, He did mention that when this person went to purchase medicinal ingredients in the past, he would always refer to himself as Mr. Wan. In other words, his surname is Wan. But Fat Lord thinks that this shouldn't be true. Fatso said. Don't make wild guesses before the truth is out. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Yes. Then Fat Lord will go. If there's any news, Fat Lord will inform you immediately. Fatso got up and said. Qin Feiyang nodded and suddenly said, by the way, go and find out if there's any dragon blood in the Central Divine Kingdom. Dragon blood? Fatso was stunned and said, no problem. After saying that, he opened the portal and left. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and pondered for a moment. He entered the castle and concentrated on copying the last stroke of the kill formula. As for Lu Hong, Wolf King and the other beasts, they were all immersed in sorting out the medicinal ingredients. The entire castle was filled with a strong medicinal fragrance. Midnight. Dong. A series of rapid knocks on the door came into the castle. Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows, took a disguise pill, and changed into the appearance of Ancestor Mu. Then he left the castle, walked to the door, and opened the stone door. A familiar face suddenly entered his line of sight. It was Mu Qing. But it was also Mu Qing in disguise. Mu Qing glanced at Qin Feiyang. Without waiting for Qin Feiyang to speak, she directly walked into the alchemy room. Her face was a little ugly. Qin Feiyang closed the stone door and turned to look at Mu Qing. He frowned and said, did an accident happen? No. The entire Scorpion tribe, except for the people outside, is dead. Mu Qing said. This is a good thing. It's worth being happy. Why do you still have a long face? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Elderly was killed. Mu Qing said in a low voice. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. He nodded and said, I know. He was killed by the great elder of the Scorpion tribe. Mu Qing suddenly shouted, since you know, why don't you help her? Help her? Are you kidding? The great elder of the Scorpion tribe is a 5-star combat emperor. With my strength, it's not enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Qin Feiyang said. I know you're not a match for the great elder of the Scorpion tribe, but you can take elderly and hide in the castle. Mu Qing said angrily. It's easy for you to say. The situation was critical. I didn't have time to take her to the castle. Besides, do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Why should I help her? Qin Feiyang sneered. Mu Qing said in a low voice, so, all the herbs in the herb field have also fallen into your hands? Yes. Didn't you also get the treasures of the Scorpion tribe? We're dividing the benefits equally. Qin Feiyang said. Dividing the benefits equally? Without the help of the Mu family, you can't even enter the Central Divine Kingdom, let alone go to the Scorpion Mountain Range. Tell me, what right do you have to talk to me about dividing the benefits equally? Mu Qing was a little flustered and exasperated. Besides, he always felt that Mu Li's death was not that simple. Yes. I can enter the Central Divine Kingdom thanks to the help of the Mu family, but you want to use me to achieve your goal, don't you? To put it bluntly, we're using each other. We're all adults. Don't be so childish, okay? Qin Feiyang said helplessly. I'm childish? Mu Qing was furious. He stepped forward, grabbed Qin Feiyang's clothes, and shouted, I'm telling you, don't be arrogant with me. This is the Central Divine Kingdom, not the Great Qin Empire. If I want to kill you, it's as easy as killing an ant. Do you understand? Qin Feiyang raised his eyebrows and kicked. Mu Qing was kicked away on the spot and hit the wall behind him. A trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Then, Qin Feiyang tidied his clothes and glanced indifferently at Mu Qing, who was sitting on the ground, and said, I'm also telling you, I dare to kill you now, so you'd better not provoke me again. You, Mu Qing was furious, but looking at Qin Feiyang's calm expression, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. There was a kind of person in the world. The more calm he appeared, the more terrifying he was. And Qin Feiyang was this kind of person. He suppressed his anger, got up, and said, "Then tell me, did you deliberately set up Elder Li's death?" Qin Feiyang couldn't help but feel a headache. This guy was a little too smart. "Answer me, did you?" Mu Qing shouted. "Yes, it was me. I also took the divine artifact." Qin Feiyang nodded. He originally wanted to hide it from Mu Qing, but now he was really not in the mood. Even if Mu Qing knew, what could he do? It didn't matter. "Okay, you win." Mu Qing gritted his teeth and glared at Qin Feiyang, then turned around and rushed out of the door. Naive. Qin Feiyang shook his head. After closing the stone door, he entered the castle and continued to copy the last stroke of the kill formula. However, from this point, it could be seen that the former housekeeper of the Mu family still had a high position in Mu Qing's heart. Alchemy Room Number 9. In the lounge. Mu Qing held the image crystal in his hand and sat on the chair, his face gloomy to the extreme. Buzz. After a while, the shadow of the Mu family's second ancestor appeared and asked, "How did it go?" "It was he who killed Elder Li." Mu Qing said word by word, his eyes full of murderous intent. "This damn little beast, I should have listened to you and not let him go to the medicine field." The Mu family's second ancestor was furious. Mu Qing said, "I must avenge Elder Li Qing, I understand how you feel. Mu Li has been taking care of you since you were a child, and you also see her as your grandmother. But remember not to be impulsive, you must think of the overall situation. You can rest assured that when our partnership with him is over, I will find a chance to catch him and let you end his dog life with your own hands." The Mu family's second ancestor said. "Good." Mu Qing nodded. "Then have you thought about how to frame that mysterious woman?" "This is very simple, I will arrange it, don't worry about it, just focus on your cultivation, don't let the gap between you and Qin Feiyang get bigger and bigger." The Mu family's second ancestor said. "I will. By the way, should we also get rid of the remnants of the scorpion tribe in the main tower?" Mu Qing asked. "No need. These people are very young, they can't make any big waves." "Of course. If there is a chance, we can get rid of them." The Mu family's second ancestor laughed. Not long after the conversation between the two ended, under the moonlight, an old man in purple clothes descended over a courtyard. It was the Mu family's second ancestor. This courtyard was very unique, it was located in the middle of a lake. The lake water was clear, and under the moonlight, it shimmered with layers of light. At this time, it was late at night, and the place was silent. However, in the attic of the courtyard, there were wisps of candlelight coming out from a window. The Mu family's second ancestor landed in front of the window and smiled, "Brother Yu, this Mu has come to visit." Soon after, the window opened, and a middle-aged man stood in front of it. This person was about 30 or 40 years old, his body was thin, with long snow-white hair, and his body was also wearing a white robe, spotless. In his hand, he was holding an ancient book, and his whole person exuded a scholarly aura. "Brother Mu?" When he saw the Mu family's second ancestor, the middle-aged man was a little surprised, but then he smiled, "Brother Mu, please come in." "No need. This time, this old man came to tell you a bad news." The Mu family's second ancestor said, his face gloomy. "What news can make Brother Mu come to me in person?" The middle-aged man was curious. The Mu family's second ancestor said in a deep voice, "The scorpion tribe was exterminated." Thud. The ancient book in the middle-aged man's hand suddenly fell to the ground. "Who did it?" he asked. His whole body's temperament suddenly changed. If it was before, he was like a scholar. But at this moment, he was like the incarnation of a sharp sword, exuding a shocking sharpness. A woman. The Mu family's second ancestor waved his hand, and his battle chi surged, condensing the shadow of the mysterious madam. The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows, and said, "Isn't she the one who helped Qin Fei Yang time and time again?" "Yes. Not long ago, a clansman of the Mu family was looking for medicinal herbs near the Scorpion Mountain range. Suddenly, he heard the sound of fighting in the Scorpion tribe, so he quietly sneaked over. At that time, he saw with his own eyes that this woman ruthlessly slaughtered the entire Scorpion tribe. When this old man learned of this, he was extremely shocked and immediately went to check in person, and sure enough, no one was alive." Chapter 879. The middle-aged man's eyes turned cold. The Mu family's second ancestor had personally confirmed it. "Thank you, Brother Mu, for coming to inform me. I will send someone to investigate the Scorpion tribe," the middle-aged man said. The extermination of a super tribe was no small matter. Once the news spread, it would cause an unprecedented turmoil in the Central Divine Kingdom. "Good. This old man will go back first. If there is anything the Mu family can help with, Brother Yu, please don't hesitate to ask. Although my Mu family is not a native of the Forgotten Continent, we will not tolerate this kind of crazy criminal." The Mu family's second ancestor's words were powerful and righteous. The middle-aged man didn't know the truth, otherwise he would have laughed in his heart. The middle-aged man cupped his hands and smiled, "Thank you, then I won't send you off. Goodbye." The Mu family's second ancestor also cupped his hands and said a few words. He then turned around and opened the portal, quickly leaving. Who is this mysterious woman? And why did she want to exterminate the Scorpion tribe? After the portal disappeared, the middle-aged man lowered his head, his brows tightly knitted together. "Gong Sun Bei, quickly come see me." A moment later, he looked at the dark void outside the window and shouted. In less than 10 breaths, a graceful young man in purple holding a jade flute flashed through the night sky like lightning and landed in front of the middle-aged man. "Greetings, Chief Tower Master." The young man in purple bowed, but there was a cynical smile on his face. That's right. This elegant middle-aged man was the ruler of the Forgotten Continent, the Chief Tower Master. It could even be said that he was the ruler of the Forgotten Continent. The Chief Tower Master said, "Go to the Scorpion tribe immediately." Gong Sun Bei was confused. "Why are you going to the Scorpion tribe so late at night?" "Just now, the Mu family's second ancestor came to find me and told me that the Scorpion tribe was exterminated," the Chief Tower Master said in a deep voice. "What?" Gong Sun Bei's expression changed. "Who did it?" According to the Mu family's second ancestor, it was the mysterious woman who repeatedly helped Qin Fei Yang. The Chief Tower Master said. This, Gong Sun Bei raised his eyebrows. "Sir, there is something I don't know if I should say." "Speak your mind." The Chief Tower Master looked at him suspiciously. "Although the Mu family has been in our Forgotten Continent for many years, they are still outsiders. Furthermore, none of us know their true origins. Thus, you can't completely trust their words," Gong Sun Bei said. Chief Pagoda Master said with a frown, "You mean, no. Sir, please don't misunderstand. I'm not saying this because I'm suspecting that the Scorpion tribe was destroyed by the Mujia. I'm just reminding you to guard against them in the future." Gong Sun Bei hurriedly waved his hands. Chief Pagoda Master pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, "All right, I will remember it. Hurry up and go." Gong Sun Bei opened a portal, but then he thought of something and asked, "If the Scorpion tribe is really annihilated, should we seal the news? How can such a big matter be sealed? Moreover, there are still many clansmen of the Scorpion tribe outside. The chief pagoda master smiled bitterly. I understand. Gong Sunbei nodded, then turned and stepped into the portal, quickly disappearing. Qin Feiyang, just who are you? Why are all the things that have happened recently related to you? Chief Pagoda Master looked up at the waning moon in the sky and muttered to himself. For a moment, his mind was in a mess. Time flew by. Early morning. The sun rose, full of vigor. Everything in the world that had slept for a night gradually woke up at this moment. Have you heard? The Scorpion tribe was annihilated. What? How is this possible? It's true. Before the sun rose, I heard that the Scorpion tribe was annihilated. At first, I didn't believe it either, but when I went to the Scorpion Mountain range myself, I was completely shocked. The entire Scorpion tribe was covered in broken corpses, and the ground was stained with blood. I also went to take a look. The Scorpio tribe, which was originally glorious and prosperous, turned into an Azura hell overnight. Yes, the city is gone, and not a single survivor is left. Only a sea of corpses is left. It's too terrifying. Early in the morning, the news of the Scorpion tribe being annihilated spread throughout the divine city. Without a doubt. People were boiling. At the same time, hearing this shocking news, the world was also horrified. One must know. The Scorpion tribe was one of the top 10 super tribes. How could it be annihilated? How sensational was this news? In less than half an hour, this news spread to every corner of the divine city. Where there were people, they were discussing this matter. Moreover, this news was like a plague that was unstoppable and spread outside the divine city. Half a day later. Whether it was those large and small tribes or other cities, they all knew about this and were all shocked. It was too shocking. In history, this was the first time a super tribe was annihilated. And it was annihilated by one person. I really didn't expect it to be related to this Qin Feiyang again. What is this person trying to do? Could it be that he has already sneaked into the central divine kingdom? Will he still deal with other super tribes? A companion by his side can annihilate a super tribe. How terrifying is his background? There was no suspense. When this news spread, the central divine kingdom fell into chaos. Everyone was in danger. Especially the other 9 super tribes. They were all afraid of becoming Qin Feiyang's next target. And because of the relationship between the mysterious lady and Qin Feiyang, everyone also thought that it was Qin Feiyang's idea to annihilate the Scorpion tribe. In the end, although it was to frame the mysterious lady, this black pot still had to be carried by Qin Feiyang. Knowing this situation, Qin Feiyang was also quite helpless. After scheming and scheming, in the end, it was him who was schemed against. Thinking about it, he felt funny. However, he didn't care too much. Anyway, his original intention was to drag the mysterious lady down, and now he had achieved it. In the assessment hall. As usual, Elder Wu was sitting alone on the armchair, closing his eyes to recuperate. Although the heavenly Scorpion tribe isn't anything good, that mysterious woman killed all of their clansmen. Her actions are a bit too extreme. Yes, I don't know how the Scorpion tribe offended that woman. You're wrong. To be exact, how did they offend Qin Feiyang? Because this must be Qin Feiyang's idea. This guy not only took away the alchemy fire of our 9 regions, but also annihilated the Scorpion tribe. What is he planning? To be honest, I really want to see him in person and see if he has 3 heads and 6 arms. Several disciples passed by the square and kept talking. What? The Scorpion tribe was annihilated? The discussion was heard by Elder Wu. He was slightly stunned, then suddenly stood up, took a step, and instantly landed in front of those disciples. Greetings, Elder Wu. The disciples were stunned for a moment before they hurriedly bowed in greeting. You just said that the Scorpion tribe was annihilated. Is it true? Elder Wu asked, looking a little nervous. Yes. It is said that no one escaped. Those disciples nodded. This, Elder Wu was in a daze and asked, it was said? When did it happen? It happened last night. There are rumors that it was the mysterious lady beside Qin Feiyang. But no one has come out to confirm whether it was her or not. Those disciples said. Last night. Elder Wu's eyes trembled slightly. He remembered that he went to Qin Feiyang and asked for their help yesterday, and the Scorpion tribe was annihilated last night. Was this a coincidence? If it was not a coincidence, the identity of these two people, thinking of this. He couldn't help but shiver, and cold sweat was already dripping under his clothes. Elder, is there anything else? Those disciples looked at him suspiciously. After Elder Wu came back to his senses, he waved his hand absent-mindedly and said, Nothing, you can go. After those disciples left, Elder Wu lowered his head and pondered for a moment, then rushed into the sky, turned into a stream of light, and rushed into the depths of the main pagoda. At the same time, Qin Feiyang, bitch, if I, Guofeng, don't kill you, I'm not human. On the third peak of the warrior mountain range, an angry roar resounded. I, Guiyun, swear that even if I have to go to heaven or hell, I will find you and bury you with the millions of people of the Scorpion tribe. The third pagoda of the Pill Pagoda also exploded with an angry roar. Guofeng was the king of the third peak of the warrior mountain range. Guiyun was the king of the third pagoda of the Pill Pagoda. Mo Feng had said before that these two people were also from the Scorpion tribe. Millions of their tribesmen died in vain. Naturally, they couldn't accept it. Not only these two, but all the disciples of the Scorpion tribe seemed to have gone crazy at this moment. Everyone of the Scorpion tribe, gather at the combat arena immediately. Soon. Guiyun's voice sounded again, spreading in all directions. Whoosh! Immediately. One figure after another flew out from the 10 Pill Pagoda S, as well as the 10 main peaks, and gathered towards the fighting arena. There were men and women, all of them looking young with outstanding temperaments. However, at this moment, there was an unresolvable sadness between their brows. Fighting arena. Located between the martial artist mountain range and the Pill Pagoda, it occupied an area of several miles. It was the place where the disciples of the main pagoda sparred with each other or settled their personal grudges. Swish! Two purple-clothed youths were the first to appear in the fighting arena. Both of them were as handsome as jade, outstanding and peerless. Their cultivations were both at the peak of the 9-star war sect. They stood side by side in the air above the fighting arena, their bodies emitting an awe-inspiring aura of a king. After the two of them, the others also rushed over and gathered in the fighting arena. Finally, there were thousands of people gathered here. Guiyun scanned the thousands of people and said, Everyone, you should all know about this bad news. Thousands of people nodded at the same time. Their entire bodies were filled with grief and a monstrous killing intent. Guiyun, Guofeng, what are you trying to do? Accompanied by a loud shout, a white-haired old man descended into the air above the fighting arena. Chapter 880. The old man was Elder Wu. He happened to pass by and saw Guiyun and Guofeng gathering the disciples of the Scorpion tribe. He realized that something was wrong and hurried to stop them. Guiyun and Guofeng turned to look at Elder Wu. Elder, we don't want to do anything. We just want to go back and collect the corpses of our people. Yes, they are our closest relatives. Our parents are also here. We can't just let their corpses be exposed in the wilderness. Their eyes were bloodshot, and they were practically roaring out these words. Elder Wu glanced at the two, then at the thousands of Scorpion tribe members below. In the end, He retracted his pressure and waved his hand. Go, but remember, don't do anything rash. Thank you, Elder. The thousands of people bowed in unison, then opened the portals and stepped in one after another. Sigh. Elder Wu sighed deeply as he stared at the departing figures before he continued to head deeper into the forest. There were some things he had to understand. A moment later, he entered the sacred land and landed in front of the Chief Tower Master's courtyard. He bowed and said, Wu Daping requests an audience with the Chief Tower Master. Come in. A calm voice could be heard coming from the pagoda. Elder Wu pushed the door open and strode into the pavilion. In the guest hall, the Chief Tower Master leaned back in his chair with his eyes closed. There was a trace of worry between his brows. Greetings, Lord. Elder Wu walked to the Chief Tower Master and bowed. Is there something you need from me? The Chief Tower Master asked without opening his eyes. I just heard that the Scorpion tribe was wiped out last night. The culprit was the mysterious woman by Qin Feiyang's side. Is this true? Elder Wu asked respectfully. The Chief Tower Master was silent for a while before saying, I can't be sure about this. Elder Wu was suspicious. When the incident happened last night, only the Mu family was present. However, I don't dare to fully believe the Mu family's words, so we still need to investigate. The Chief Tower Master said. The Mu family? Elder Wu was stunned and frowned. Since the Mu family happened to be at the Scorpion tribe, why didn't they help? That mysterious woman is very powerful. Would ordinary people dare to stop her? However, I have already asked Gongsun Bei to search the Sky Scorpion mountain range carefully to see if there are any other witnesses. That's not right. Why are you so concerned about this? Could it be that you have some kind of relationship with the Scorpion tribe? Chief Tower Master asked suspiciously. We do have some friendship, but it has nothing to do with that. I just want to find out if the rumors outside are true or false. Elder Wu said. Chief Pagoda Master nodded and waved his hand. If there is nothing else, you may leave. Yes. Elder Wu replied respectfully before he turned around and left. Not long after Elder Wu left, a purple-clothed youth appeared in front of the Chief Pagoda Master. It was Gongsun Bei. How's the investigation going? The Chief Tower Master finally opened his eyes. His eyes flickered with anticipation. I've searched the area within a radius of several hundred miles. There's not a single survivor. Gongsun Bei shook his head. What about the ferocious beast? I remember that the ferocious beasts of the Sky Scorpion mountain range are all very strong. There are even saint beasts. Their intelligence won't be lower than ours. Have you asked them? The Chief Tower Master frowned. Of course, I thought of this, but let alone a ferocious beast, there wasn't even a bug. Even the ferocious beasts outside the Scorpion mountain range were all killed. In short, there's nothing. Gongsun Bei sighed. The Chief Pagoda Master frowned. No. Suddenly, he stood up with a trace of surprise in his eyes. What's wrong? Gongsun Bei was surprised. There's only one reason to kill all these ferocious beasts. That's to hide something. If the Scorpion tribe was really destroyed by that mysterious woman, is there a need for her to hide? Although I haven't seen this woman, it's not difficult to judge from her actions in the 9 regions that she's a very arrogant person. I don't think she would do something so unnecessary. The Chief Pagoda Master analyzed. This, Gongsun Bei pondered for a while and said, maybe she has some secret conspiracy that she doesn't want people to know? The Chief Pagoda Master thought about it carefully and nodded, it's not impossible. Then, he looked up at Gongsun Bei and said, we can't take this matter lightly. While looking for that mysterious woman, we must also pay attention to the Mu family's movements. My lord, are you beginning to suspect the Mu family? Gong Sunbei asked. Not suspect, but to guard against the unexpected. After all, you're right. They're just outsiders, and they're so mysterious. Now that such a big thing has happened, we have to guard against them. In addition, to make things easier for you, from this moment on, all the divine envoys of our Pill Pagoda will be under your command. After the chief pagoda master finished speaking, he returned to his seat, looking quite tired. Gong Sunbei's eyes flashed as he bowed and said, "This subordinate will do his best to complete the task. Also, go find Hao and tell him that during this period of time, try not to go out if possible. I have a hunch that our central divine kingdom may be in chaos." The chief pagoda master said. Yes. Gong Sunbei bowed respectfully, turned around, and strode out of the attic. He closed the door and then looked at the sky. Chaos? Humph. Whoever dares to disturb the order of our central divine kingdom, Gong Sunbei, will not let him go. Gong Sunbei muttered, and a strong cold light burst out of his eyes. Then, he rushed into the sky and disappeared into the horizon like lightning. One pagoda. Elder Wu was pacing back and forth in front of the pagoda door, as if he was hesitating about something. "Elder, what's the matter?" A few disciples passed by and couldn't help but look at him suspiciously. "Don't bother me, get lost." Elder Wu did not even bother to look at them as he shouted impatiently. Those disciples shrank their necks and hurriedly fled. Another moment passed. Elder Wu finally stopped and looked at the pagoda door in front of him, muttering, "I don't care so much, I have to ask clearly." He took out his identity token, opened the pagoda door, and then turned into a stream of light and rushed into the Pill Pagoda. Soon, he came to the door of Alchemy Room 10 and reached out to knock on the door. After more than 10 breaths, the stone door didn't open. Elder Wu was a little impatient and was about to knock again. But at this moment, the stone door opened quickly. Qin Feiyang was standing behind the door. Elder Wu didn't beat around the bush and said directly, "Do you have time? There's something I'd like to ask you." Qin Feiyang looked at Elder Wu suspiciously before nodding and retreating to the side. Elder Wu entered the elixir refinement room. Qin Feiyang closed the stone door casually and asked with a smile, "Elder, why do you seem a little uneasy?" Elder Wu turned around and looked at Qin Feiyang with an extremely stern expression. "Tell me honestly, did you guys have anything to do with the annihilation of Sky Scorpion tribe?" Stunned, Qin Feiyang asked in surprise, "You're saying that Sky Scorpion tribe was annihilated? You don't know?" This time around, Elder Wu was the one who was at a loss. After all this time, this guy didn't know? Furthermore, Qin Feiyang's first reaction didn't seem like he was faking it. "I don't know. I've been cultivating all this while. I just came to the main pagoda and I don't have any friends. That's why no one told me." "Elder, you're not joking, right?" Qin Feiyang asked. "I'm not in the mood to joke with you. This matter has already become a hot topic in the city. Everyone knows about it." Elder Wu sighed. "Who did it? So powerful that even the Sky Scorpion tribe was annihilated. Awesome." Qin Feiyang was extremely surprised, but at the same time, there was a hint of admiration on his face. "I just went to the main pagoda to inquire about the situation. It said that the culprit is Qin Feiyang's accomplice, that mysterious woman. Moreover, when that woman massacred the Sky Scorpion tribe, the people of the Mu clan saw it with their own eyes." Elder Wu said. "I see." Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and smiled. "I've also heard of Qin Feiyang's deeds in the 9 regions. He's indeed a lawless lord. Has anyone ever praised themselves? If Mu Qing was here, she would definitely despise him. You can still laugh." Elder Wu rolled his eyes at him and said, "To be honest, before this, I've been suspecting you and Qin Dai. This, Qin Feiyang was stunned and hurriedly said, "Elder, you can't say such things. You can't blame me for this. After all, I just came to ask for your help yesterday, and the Sky Scorpion tribe was annihilated at night. If it were someone else, they would also suspect you. However, now I can be sure that this matter has nothing to do with you." Elder Wu chuckled and finally breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "Elder is wise. Don't flatter me. Listen to my advice. No matter what relationship you have with Willow Divine Representative, you'd better be honest in the main pagoda in the future." Elder Wu said with a serious expression. "I will remember." Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wu smiled and said, "Then I'll take my leave first. Take care, I won't see you off." Qin Feiyang cupped his hands and said with a smile. Elder Wu turned around and opened the stone door. He then turned his head to look at Qin Feiyang and said, "You probably don't know about the martial arts treasury, right? Every new disciple has a chance to enter for free. You and Qin Dai should take some time to go and take a look. If you are lucky, you might even find a perfect battle art." "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wu smiled and then left with his hands behind his back. "I didn't expect that old man to be so suspicious." Qin Feiyang mumbled and waved his hand to close the stone door, then entered the ancient castle again. "That Elder Wu seems to care about you." Inside the ancient castle, Lu Hong looked up at Qin Feiyang with a charming smile on her face. "He's indeed a good person. However, I can also see that he's very loyal to the main pagoda. If he knew that I had something to do with all this, he definitely wouldn't have such an attitude. Let's not talk about this person. Anyway, he's just a passerby in my life. We won't have much interaction. But I really need to find time to take a look at the martial arts treasury." Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Lu Hong said with a smile, "Then I'll congratulate you in advance for finding a perfect battle art. How can a perfect battle art be so easy to find? Even if I find it, it might not be suitable for me to cultivate." Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. He walked to the altar and calmed his heart to copy the kill formula. Chapter 881. Just a month after Qin Feiyang went into seclusion, Li He finally announced the auction of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. The name Juku Yellow Dragon Pill was very unfamiliar in the Central Divine Kingdom, so everyone was very confused. What kind of pill was this? But when Li He announced the effect of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, there was no suspense, and people were excited again. Even the extermination of the Scorpion tribe was temporarily suppressed by this matter. Everyone knew that warriors, martial artists could use the red fire glass pill to increase their realm. But the War Emperor and War King needed to cultivate by themselves, and there was no shortcut. So, the appearance of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill completely broke the world's understanding of pills. So, there were also people who voiced their doubts. But when Li He said that he had already found someone to test the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, there were no more doubts. Because the trading pavilion would not lie. Since Li He said it was possible, then it must be possible. On the day of the auction, all the major tribes and disciples of the main tower rushed into the trading pavilion in the North City. The 4 major districts of the Divine City were originally very prosperous. But now the North City was more than many times more prosperous than the other 3 districts. Every street was basically packed to the brim. And the stewards of the trading pavilion in the other 3 districts, after hearing this news, immediately sent a message to Li He, asking him the source of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. Of course, Fu Anshan was also included. But in the face of their inquiry, Li He did not say anything. This caused the 3 stewards to become anxious. The effect of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill was really too amazing. If they did not quickly think of a solution, the position of deputy pavilion master would probably be Li He. Because when the pavilion master was selecting a deputy pavilion master, the first thing he looked at was whether or not he could bring more benefits to the trading pavilion. And the appearance of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, to the trading pavilion, not only brought wealth, but also quickly raised the status of the trading pavilion in the Forgotten Continent. So, because of this Juku Yellow Dragon Pill, Li He would change from the person with the lowest chance to the person with the highest chance. Fu Anshan and the other two stewards would not agree to this kind of thing. They were also determined to get the position of deputy pavilion master. Therefore, they were now thinking of ways to inquire about the source of the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. As long as they could find the person who refined the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill and form a partnership, the situation would instantly reverse. But no matter how they investigated, and even sent people to spy on Li He, they didn't find anything. This person who refined the 9 songs Yellow Dragon Pill was like a mystery. It was hard to see the person in person. Of course, they couldn't give up just like that. As for Li He, he was naturally overjoyed. However, his happiness did not last long. Because ever since the first Juku Yellow Dragon Pill was auctioned off, everyone was asking when the next one would be auctioned off. Even the pavilion master, who had not appeared for a long time, and the vice pavilion master, who was nearing the end of his life, had gone to him one after another to ask about this matter. This gave Li He a headache. He also repeatedly went to Fatso and Yen Wei, hoping to meet Qin Feiyang. The meeting with Qin Feiyang was fake, the real thing was that he wanted the 9 tunes Yellow Dragon Pill. But every time Fatso told him that Qin Feiyang was in seclusion, and no one was to disturb him before he came out, Li He had no choice but to wait quietly. Because right now, Qin Feiyang was the owner of the transaction pavilion. He couldn't afford to offend him. And after the second month of Qin Feiyang's seclusion, the chief pagoda master also issued an order. He ordered Lu Xingfeng, who was stationed in the 9th area, to lead people back to the chief pagoda. Because in his opinion, if the Scorpion tribe was really exterminated by the mysterious woman, then Qin Feiyang must have already sneaked into the central divine kingdom, and there was no point in continuing to guard. After Lu Xingfeng returned, he also went to the first pagoda to find Qin Feiyang, wanting to get his identity token back. But when he learned that Qin Feiyang was in seclusion, he did not disturb him. Although Qin Feiyang and the Mu family had an irreconcilable hatred, but to snatch the heavenly star flame, he still had to rely on Qin Feiyang. And to snatch the heavenly star flame, the first condition was to enter the Holy Land. So, he also hoped that Qin Feiyang could concentrate on cultivation and break through to the Battle Saint realm as soon as possible. Half a year after Qin Feiyang's seclusion, in the most remote place of the central divine kingdom, there was a majestic mountain range. In the mountain, ferocious beasts ran rampant. There was even the aura of emperor beasts. This was a forbidden area of the central divine kingdom, and even battle emperors did not dare to casually step into this place. And at the end of the mountain range was an endless sea. Boom! Splash! Above the sea, the wind whistled, and huge waves covered the sky and the earth, hitting the shore with deafening sounds. This was the endless sea. A place of death that made people tremble in fear. But at this moment, an old man in white came riding the wind and waves. He had white hair and a white beard, and he looked like an immortal, exuding an otherworldly aura. Not long after, he flew out of the endless sea, stood above the shore, and turned to look at the rolling waves of the sea. It's just so. A moment later, he muttered to himself, with a trace of disdain for the endless sea in his eyes, then he turned and flew toward the mountain range. Boom! As soon as he entered the mountain range, a terrifying emperor aura erupted from the mountain stream. Then, a huge beast rushed into the sky, blocking in front of the old man in white. It was a dragon. Its body was as big as a mountain, and its body was covered with scales. Its ferocious aura was unparalleled. Get lost. The old man in white raised his eyebrows. How dare you? The dragon was full of hostility, and its emperor aura covered all directions. You don't know what's good for you. The old man in white's eyes turned cold. He raised his hand and pointed in the air, and an invisible force immediately rushed toward the dragon. It actually has a divine aura. Are you a deity? The dragon's eyes widened, and it was extremely surprised. The old man in white did not speak, and his eyes were cold and piercing. That invisible force surged and directly killed the dragon, and blood splattered in the sky. A warlord-level beast was killed just like that. This was simply unheard of. When the other beasts hiding in the mountain range saw this scene, they all crawled on the ground and trembled. After killing the dragon, the old man in white did not stop. He streaked across the sky and quickly disappeared at the end of the mountain range. In the blink of an eye. A whole year passed. In the ancient castle. Early in the morning. Qin Feiyang, who was concentrating on copying the kill word technique, trembled his arm, and the last stroke blossomed with a resplendent blood light, dyeing the entire castle. At the same time, a powerful aura rushed out from Qin Feiyang's body. His aura soared crazily. In the blink of an eye, his cultivation had broken through the shackles and reached the 9-star War Master. Finally done. Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts all opened their eyes at the same time and looked at Qin Feiyang. In this year's time, Qin Feiyang had only done 2 things. Refining battle qi pills. Copying the kill word technique. It could be said that this was the most hardworking Qin Feiyang had ever been, and also the longest time that Qin Feiyang had been in seclusion. The heavens did not disappoint those who were willing. He had finally grasped the kill word technique. Buzz. Rumble. On the iron book, the word kill was like an iron hook and silver stroke, emitting a terrifying killing intent. Enveloped by this killing intent, Lu Hong and the others couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. They even felt that the word kill was like the incarnation of a death god. Whoosh. Suddenly, the word kill turned into a stream of light and entered between Qin Feiyang's eyebrows. Boom. Qin Feiyang's body trembled, and a shocking killing intent roared out from his body. At the same time, his long hair, skin, and eyes quickly turned blood red, filled with a ruthless and cold aura. But this was only secondary. The most important thing was that in the center of his eyebrows, a bloody word kill had appeared, as if it was condensed from blood. At this moment, he was like a demon god from hell, causing people to tremble in fear. Even Lu Hong, Wolf King, and the other beasts felt an uncontrollable fear in their hearts when they saw Qin Feiyang's current appearance. At the same time, Qin Feiyang was also carefully experiencing the feeling the kill word technique gave him. He felt it. This kill word technique was even more terrifying than what was recorded. For example, at this moment, that killing intent was actually corroding his mind, as if it wanted to control his body. Moreover, he had the urge to kill someone right now. He couldn't help but suspect that if he killed more people, would this kill word technique completely control his mind in the end? If it did, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Because if that was the case, he would become an emotionless killing machine. It seemed that this kill word technique could only be used as a trump card. Unless it was a critical moment, it could not be used. Who? After letting out a long breath, Qin Feiyang's mind stirred, and the word kill between his eyebrows disappeared. His appearance quickly returned to normal. The killing intent around his body also dissipated. Lu Hong, Wolf King and the other beasts looked at each other and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Wolf King stood up and stared at the iron book. His eyes flickered as he said, quickly take a look at what the next divine art is. Qin Feiyang looked at the iron book and shook his head. The next page can only be opened after I break through to the War King. That's right. I almost forgot. Wolf King patted his forehead and said, however, the last stroke of the kill word technique is really a waste of time. Look at me, I didn't do anything, and I've already broken through to the 9-star War Master. It laughed mischievously, its eyes filled with pride. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at it. Although Wolf King had the intention to show off, it was still the truth. But now, he didn't need to copy the 6-word divine arts for the time being. In the future, his cultivation speed would definitely not be slower than Wolf King's. Next. He swept his gaze towards Lu Hong, the winged snow eagle and the other beasts. Lu Hong's cultivation had already broken through to the 3-star War Master. The winged snow eagle had already reached the 2-star War Saint. The pangolin's cultivation was even higher than Lu Hong's, and it had now stepped into the 7-star War Master. As for the black dragon snake, it could be said to have traveled 1,000 miles a day. In short, after this closed-door cultivation, everyone's strength had risen to a new level. You guys continue cultivating. I'll go out and take a look. Qin Feiyang said with a smile, then left the castle. A year had passed, and there was already a little dust in the pill refining room. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the stone door opened. Following that, gusts of wind blew. Not long later, the huge alchemy room was spotless. Qin Feiyang was about to close the stone door, but at this moment, a black-clothed youth appeared outside the door. This person's body was slender, his eyebrows were like swords, and his body emitted an astonishing sharpness. It was Mo Feng. As soon as you entered the main tower, you went into seclusion for an entire year. Junior brother Mu, you're really hard-working. Mo Feng sized up Qin Feiyang with a hint of astonishment in his eyes. With his eyesight, he could naturally tell that Qin Feiyang's aura was even stronger than before. Chapter 882. There's nothing I can do about it. The main pagoda is filled with talents and experts. With my talent, if I don't work hard, I will be eliminated sooner or later. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Mo Feng walked into the alchemy room and said, Junior brother Mu, there's no need to be so polite. With Junior brother Mu's current strength, you are already strong enough to dominate the disciples. Dominate? I'm afraid you're still far from it. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed, and asked suspiciously, I wonder why senior brother Mo is looking for me? It's nothing important. It's just that a while ago, senior brother Pei Yi wanted to invite you to the Dragon Phoenix house for a drink. Seeing that you have been in seclusion, he didn't want to disturb you. Mo Feng said. Look at my memory, I actually forgot about this. Senior brother Mo, please help me tell senior brother Pei Yi that we're really sorry. Qin Feiyang said. Senior brother Pei Yi knew that you were in seclusion and didn't say anything. But now that you're out, you should have time, right? Mo Feng smiled. Yes, yes, yes. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly. Mo Feng said, then how about we go to the Dragon Phoenix house tomorrow? This, Qin Feiyang hesitated for a moment, then nodded and smiled, sure. Actually, he was not interested in the Dragon Phoenix house at all. However, the other party had invited him repeatedly, and if he still refused, then he would not know how to be a human being. Moreover, Pei Yi was the king of the One Tower and also a member of the Divine Python tribe. If he could build a good relationship with this person, it might be of help to him in the future. Alright, I won't disturb you anymore. See you tomorrow. Mo Feng smiled and turned to leave. Qin Feiyang walked to the door, watched Mo Feng leave, then closed the stone door and took out the image crystal. Buzz! A moment later, Fatso's shadow appeared. After sizing up Fatso for a moment, Qin Feiyang asked in surprise, "You've also broken through the 9-star War Master?" "Of course," Fatso said proudly. "That's not right, aren't you investigating? Why do you still have time to cultivate?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "Even if we want to investigate, that person has to show up first. But in the past year, that person has not appeared even once," Fatso said. This, Qin Feiyang frowned. "I asked Li He as well. In the past, this person would come once every half a year. But now, he hasn't come for an entire year." Fat Lord feels like, at this point, Fatty's brows furrowed into a knot. "Feel what?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Something doesn't feel right. Do you think this person knows that we're investigating him?" Fatso said. "Impossible." Qin Feiyang shook his head resolutely. They were the only ones who knew about it. Furthermore, Li He would never leak the news, so how could the other party know? Fat Lord was also thinking that it was impossible. But after thinking about it carefully, Fat Lord felt that it was not impossible. Fatso pondered. "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang asked. "Think about it, if this person knows that we're in the Central Divine Kingdom and that we're in disguise, what will he do? He must be afraid of being investigated by us, so he won't come to buy herbs anymore." Fatso guessed. "Why don't you just say that it's the Mu family? Why are you beating around the bush?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. "Because only the Mu family knew that they had entered the Central Divine Kingdom. Fat Lord is getting more and more convinced that the Mu family is the descendants of Mu Tianyang," Fatso said. "Let's continue to wait. If this person doesn't appear after a while, we can target the Mu family." Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, "Okay." Fatso nodded. Qin Feiyang said, "Did anything else happen during this time?" "No." Fatso shook his head and said, "If you want to talk about it, there's a man named Gong Sun Bei in the Central Tower. He's looking for the whereabouts of the mysterious lady. Of course, he's also looking for you. That's not important." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "By the way, the remnants of the Scorpion tribe are also looking for you like crazy. And Li He, I haven't seen you for a year. That old man is going crazy now." Fatso smiled. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. "Then come here now. I'll give you a few Juku yellow dragon pills." "Okay." Fatso smiled and opened a portal, directly appearing next to Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang also immediately entered the castle, took out 5 Juku yellow dragon pills, handed them to Fatso, and said, "Tell him that only 1 pill can be auctioned every month." "Understood." Fatso nodded. After putting away the Juku yellow dragon pills, he looked at Qin Feiyang again, showing a hesitant look. "What's wrong?" Qin Feiyang looked at him suspiciously. Fatso hesitated for a while, then summoned his courage and said, "I want to enter the Central Tower." "Huh?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and puzzled. "Why do you want to enter the Central Tower?" That, Fatso seemed to have something that was hard to say and couldn't say it for a long time. But Qin Feiyang noticed that Fatso's expression was a little awkward. "Forget it if you don't want to say it," Qin Feiyang said lightly. I'll say it. Fatso quickly looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Do you remember the woman we met when we first came to the Central Divine Kingdom?" "I remember." Qin Feiyang nodded, then looked stunned and said with a smile, "I understand, you want to enter the Central Tower because of her?" "Yes. This year, I've been asking about her. According to my inquiries, she's the daughter of the Heavenly Spiral Tribe's leader, called Chu Xian. She's also a disciple of the Warrior Mountain," Fatso said. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He had already investigated her family background, this guy was quite attentive. Qin Feiyang asked, is the Heavenly Spiral tribe also a super tribe? No, it's just a small tribe in the Central Divine Kingdom. Her parents are only 9-star battle saints. Fatso said. They're still stronger than you, why aren't you worthy of her? Qin Feiyang was speechless. Fatso's face darkened, and he said angrily, are you still my brother? Do you have to hit me like this? If you say this again, I'll be angry. Okay, it's my fault. Qin Feiyang quickly waved his hand, and his face suddenly became serious, and said, then did you find out who she used to be with? Yes. You must be very interested in this person, it's the king of the third peak of the warrior mountain, Guofeng. Fatso said with a cold light in his eyes. So it's him. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood, and said, then why did they break up? According to my inquiries, it's because Guofeng fell in love with a woman in the Divine Python tribe. This woman is called Peiyu, and it's said that she's Pei Yi's cousin. When I was investigating this matter, I also heard that Guofeng didn't like Peiyu at all. It's just because the Divine Python tribe behind her is a super tribe like the Scorpion tribe. Fatso sneered. Pei Yi's cousin? That's interesting. The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth curled up slightly. I also heard that Peiyu has never agreed to Guofeng's pursuit, and it said that she doesn't like him at all. She even hates him. Fatso said. Got it, after you're done with the matters at hand, go and look for Elder Wu for the assessment. When the time comes, don't come to the Pill Pagoda, go directly to the Warrior Mountain. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Thank you, boss. Fatso was overjoyed. Let's go back to the transaction pavilion. When you're free, you have to work hard to cultivate. Although the Scorpion tribe was annihilated, Guofeng is definitely not a simple character since he can become the king of the third peak. He's not that easy to deal with. Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile. Him? Fat Lord is nothing in his eyes. Fatso smiled in disdain, and then opened the teleportation gate. By the way, how far have Chu Xian and Guofeng progressed? Qin Feiyang suddenly asked. If they had already developed to the point of intimate contact, he would persuade Fatso to let go. Don't worry about that, she's not the kind of woman who would mess around. She's still chaste even now. Fatso chuckled. Qin Feiyang nodded and waved his hand. Go. After Fatso left, Qin Feiyang felt a headache coming on. Fatso's current talent was definitely top-notch. After all, he had opened the door of potential. In terms of that alone, he was more than enough to be a good match for Chu Xian. However, his physique was the only thing that no one dared to compliment. It seemed that Fatso would have to put in a lot of effort to win Chu Xian's heart. Of course. As a brother, he definitely wouldn't stand by and watch. But in the end, whether the two of them could be together or not would still depend on fate. North City, Transaction Pavilion. In the lounge. Li He sat in front of the desk weakly, his old face full of worry. Swoosh. Suddenly. A beautiful white figure appeared out of thin air. It was Li He's granddaughter, Li Yan. Grandpa, you can't be like this. You're listless all day. If the pavilion master sees you, he'll definitely be angry. Li Yan walked to the desk and lowered her head to look at Li He. Her white forehead wrinkled slightly. Let me tell you, if I can't get the Juku Yellow Dragon pill, the pavilion master will really be angry. Li He said weakly. Li Yan said helplessly, you can't be anxious. I went to the first pagoda to inquire, this person is indeed in seclusion. Seclusion, he has been in seclusion for a year. Isn't that enough? This little bastard, it's too torturous. Li He slammed his palm on the desk, blowing his beard and glaring at him. He was on the verge of exploding. Looking at the current Li He, Li Yan's beautiful eyes flickered. She couldn't bear it and said, "Why don't I go find him?" "Don't. He's now the little ancestor of our transaction pavilion. We can't afford to offend him." Li He said, his heart full of grievances. Although he wasn't some big shot, he was still a war king. How could he be so easily taken advantage of by a brat who had just arrived at the central divine kingdom? Where was the heavens? My boss isn't as old as you say. He can't afford to be the ancestor of your transaction pavilion. At this moment, a teasing voice sounded from outside the door, and then Fatso pushed the door open and entered. "What do you mean? Back then, you guys agreed to cooperate with my grandfather. Now that my grandfather wants a Juku yellow dragon pill, I have to beg him. Isn't it a bit too much?" Chapter 883. I'm a little angry that you said that. As Fatso spoke, he took out a Juku yellow dragon pill from his Chinkuan bag and waved it in front of them. Seeing the Juku yellow dragon pill, Li He immediately perked up. He got up and rushed to Fatso in a hurry, reaching out to grab it. "Wait." Fatso shook his hand and quickly dodged. "What's wrong?" Li He was puzzled, his eyes full of desire. Fatso shook his head and sighed. "Your granddaughter's previous attitude made me very dissatisfied. Apologize." Li He immediately looked at Li Yan and said, "I apologize." Li Yan was stunned and glared at Li He angrily. "Why? They are in the wrong. Can't I say it?" "Oh." Li He hurriedly ran to Li Yan and whispered, yes, you're not wrong. But for Grandpa's future, you have to compromise. This is a matter of principle. I'm determined not to apologize." Li Yan didn't buy it at all. She turned her head to the side and pouted, very unhappy. Li He looked at Li Yan, then at Fatty, his old face filled with helplessness. Fatso couldn't help but laugh. Then, he acted very generous and open-minded, saying, "Forget it, I'm too lazy to argue with an unruly woman like you. Take it." Then, he threw the Juku yellow dragon pill to Li He. Thank you." Li He grabbed the pill and thanked him repeatedly. Then, he lowered his head and looked at the Juku yellow dragon pill, his eyes shining. However, Li Yan didn't accept it. He actually said that she was unruly. Wasn't this just making trouble for no reason? Seeing that the situation was not good, Li He hurriedly put away the pill and persuaded, "Can you say a few words less? Grandpa is begging you." "Grandpa?" Li Yan raised her eyebrows and looked at Li He. "What's wrong?" Li He asked. Li Yan said, "I found that you've changed. You've become a little spineless." Li He's face darkened and he said angrily, "Go away, how can you talk to Grandpa like that? You're rude." "That's right." Li Yan snorted through her nose. To be despised by his own granddaughter, Li He felt bitter in his heart. Dong! But at this moment, there was a knock on the door. Li He sorted out his emotions, put away the Juku yellow dragon pill, and returned to his seat, saying, "Come in." Li Yan and Fatso also stood behind Li He. Fatso came here to work, so he had to act like a professional in front of outsiders. The door was pushed open and a black-clothed guard stood at the door and said respectfully, "Sir, Lord Fu Anshan requests an audience." Again? Li He frowned. In this 1 year, who knew how many times Fu Anshan had already come? Every time he came, it was for no other reason than to inquire about the source of the Juku yellow dragon pill. The guard asked, "Then, will you see him or not? We all work in the transaction pavilion. We see each other all the time. How can I reject you? Let him in." Li He sighed as a wisp of helplessness appeared between his brows. "Yes." The guard turned around and left. "Don't say anything later. This Fu Anshan is very shrewd. If we're not careful, he might discover something. Li He turned to look at Fatty and Hay and whispered to them. The two of them nodded. Brotherly, I haven't seen you for a few days. How have you been? Not long after, Fu Anshan came. He stood at the door and looked at Li He with a smile, as if they were old friends who had met for many years. They were extremely affectionate. In his hand, he was carrying an exquisite gift box. I'm very well. Li He got up and smiled, saying, Come in and sit. Fu Anshan walked into the lounge, turned around and closed the door. Then, he walked in front of Li He and placed the gift box in his hand on the desk. This is? Li He glanced at the gift box, then raised his head and looked at Fu Anshan suspiciously. He, this must be a gift for your grandfather. Fatso laughed secretly and sent a voice transmission to Li Yan. This person's skin is so thick that it's indescribable. You'll get used to it. Li Yan replied, her tone full of disdain. Brother, don't you like tea? That's why I specially went to prepare some top-grade tea leaves. I picked them myself, and I picked them out piece by piece. Brother, don't mind. Fu Anshan chuckled. How can I accept this? It's too expensive. I can't accept it. Li He hurriedly waved his hand, looking flattered. In fact, he knew in his heart that Fu Anshan must have bought these tea leaves at the market. What picking them personally, what picking them out piece by piece, they were all hypocritical words. But no matter what, he still had to do it on the surface. This, Fu Anshan frowned and pretended to be angry. Brother, if you don't accept it, you won't give me any face. But whether he was pretending to be angry or not, he didn't know. All right, then I'll kindly accept it. Li He looked at the gift box and finally nodded. Sir, wait a moment. But at this time, Fatso said. What's wrong? Li He turned his head and looked at him suspiciously. I'll help you taste it first to see if it's poisonous. Fatso said respectfully, walked to the desk, and directly opened the gift box. Seeing this, both Li He and Li Yan were astonished. Then, the grandfather and grandson's faces couldn't help but twitch. Not only did he suspect others, he even directly checked the goods in front of others. How could Fu Anshan endure this? The grandfather and grandson glanced at Fu Anshan. Sure enough. At this moment, Fu Anshan's face was extremely gloomy, and the way he looked at Fatso was as if he wanted to pull out his tendons and skin him. Fatso turned a blind eye to it, took out a piece of tea, put it in his mouth and chewed. A moment later, he spat out the tea and nodded, this tea is indeed good. Then he looked at Li He and bowed, Sir, it's not poisonous, you can rest assured and accept it. Li He couldn't help but want to laugh, but he didn't dare to. He held it in and nodded. But Fu Anshan was about to explode. He stared fixedly at the fatty and said, If this old man remembers correctly, you are the person who was following Qin Day and his companion a year ago, right? That's right. Fatso nodded. Fu Anshan said in a deep voice, Then why are you here now? My talent is not good enough, and the people of the main tower don't like me, so I can only find a job to make a living. What, do you have a problem with that? Fatso teased. Fu Anshan clenched his fists, and his joints made a cracking sound. Seeing this, Li He knew that something was wrong, and hurriedly scolded Fatso, Who gave you the guts to speak to Steward Fu like that? Apologize to Steward Fu, or pack up your things and get out of here. Fatso shrunk his neck and hurriedly bowed, It's this little one who doesn't understand etiquette, please be magnanimous and don't bother with this little one. Humph. Fu Anshan snorted and looked at Li He, Old Li, let's not beat around the bush. I don't have any other purpose, I just want to know who refined the Juku Yellow Dragon pill. When I worked with that person, I agreed in advance that I couldn't reveal his identity to anyone. Even when the pavilion master and deputy pavilion master came to ask me, I didn't say anything. So, I can only apologize to you. Li He said. Fu Anshan raised his eyebrows, and the anger in his heart almost exploded. But he endured it and said, then when are you going to auction the second Juku yellow dragon pill? This, Li He hesitated. He wanted to tell Fu Anshan that he hadn't thought about it yet. But before he could speak, Fu Anshan said, don't tell me you haven't gotten the second Juku yellow dragon pill from him? You can't be this efficient. Li He narrowed his eyes and said, what are you trying to say? With the Juku yellow dragon pill, the next deputy pavilion master will definitely be you. However, if you don't accumulate enough points, you might become the same as before. Fu Anshan said indifferently. Anyone who knew what was going on would be able to tell that there was a hint of mockery in his words. Thank you for your concern. But in my opinion, it's not a big deal to become the same as before. In short, I won't be like some people, showing a humble face all day long to curry favor with this and that. Li He said with a faint smile. What did you say? Fu Anshan's face darkened, and there was a fierce light in his eyes. He turned hostile. Fatso laughed secretly. You can't be nice to people like Fu Anshan, do you understand? Li Yan sneered secretly. In the face of Fu Anshan's fierce eyes, Li He only smiled indifferently and said, you know what I'm talking about. Okay. We'll see. I'd like to see how you climb to the position of Deputy Pavilion Master without the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. Fu Anshan smiled coldly and left in a huff. Wait. I really don't have the fortune to enjoy this gift of yours. You'd better take it back. Let me show you something else. You'll definitely be surprised. Li He waved his hand, and the gift box on the table flew toward Fu Anshan. Fu Anshan stopped and turned to catch the gift box. Then, he looked at Li He and immediately saw Li He take out a pill from his Cosmos bag. What? Juku Yellow Dragon Pill. Fu Anshan froze on the spot. I wanted to tell you before that I already got one, but unfortunately, you didn't let me. How is it? How do you feel after seeing this Juku Yellow Dragon Pill? Li He said playfully. This was the real-life version of a slap in the face. Fu Anshan's face was extremely interesting. Alright, I won't send you off. If you have time in the future, don't come here. Because it won't help you in any way. You'd better go and curry favor with the pavilion master. Maybe one day, when he's in a good mood, he'll directly let you succeed the position of deputy pavilion master. When that time comes, I hope you'll take care of me. By the way, I have to thank you properly. Li He put away the Juku Yellow Dragon Pill and said with a smile. There was a reason for him to say thank you. Because back then, the first person Qin Feiyang looked for was not him, but Fu Anshan. If Fu Anshan's attitude was better at that time and he was not so arrogant, then the person who was cooperating with Qin Feiyang now would definitely be Fu Anshan, and naturally, Li He would have nothing to do with it. Therefore, Li He was extremely grateful to Fu Anshan. But Fu Anshan did not know this. He only thought that Li He was mocking him. You're good. After saying this, he grabbed the gift box and turned to leave angrily. Of course. Chapter 884. Huh, your face slapping is really satisfying. After Fu Anshan left, Fatso immediately gave Li He a thumbs up and laughed. Li He was also full of smiles. If it was in the past, even if he knew that the other party did not come with good intentions, he would not fall out with them like today. But now, he had the confidence and was not afraid. Suddenly, Li He frowned and said, say, when Fu Anshan sees you working here, will he think that it was you who gave me the 9-chew yellow dragon pill? Would he be so smart? Fatso looked down on him. That's true. Li Yan nodded. You guys. Don't underestimate him. Although he is a little arrogant, to be able to become the manager of the North City Trading Pavilion, it is enough to show that he is not a stupid person. Li He shook his head and smiled, but there was still a trace of worry between his brows. Don't worry, he looks down on us so much, he won't suspect us at all. Fatso said confidently. That makes sense. Li He nodded, feeling much more relieved. Li Yan looked at Li He, then at Fatso, her eyes flickering. Why are you looking at me like that? When Fatso noticed Li Yan's abnormality, he immediately became vigilant. Li Yan did not say anything. Fatso swallowed his saliva and said, Don't tell me you've taken a fancy to me. Let me tell you, I'm already a man with a famous flower. Don't be greedy for my beauty. Scram. Li Yan's face darkened on the spot. She had never seen such a narcissistic person. She asked, Has your boss come out of seclusion? Do you still need to ask? If he hasn't come out of seclusion, where am I going to find the 9-chew yellow dragon pill? Fatso looked at him as if he was looking at an idiot. Li Yan raised her eyebrows and said angrily, Can't you have a better attitude when you speak? Is there a problem with my attitude? Fatso looked at her seriously. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. I'm going to find your boss. Li Yan snorted, turned around and opened a teleportation gate. Ugh. Fatso was stunned. He chuckled and said, So you've taken a fancy to my boss. Let me tell you, my boss is also taken, and there are more than one. So you don't have to waste your time. Then, he added, Besides, with your looks, my boss wouldn't even fancy you. You, Li Yan stared at him angrily, her eyes spitting fire. Why was this bastard's mouth so cheap? It was simply infuriating. Meanwhile, Li He shook his head helplessly as he looked at the two of them. Back to Qin Feiyang. After Fatso left with the Juku yellow dragon pill, he also left the alchemy room. Senior brother, how do I get to the martial arts treasury? After walking out of the first pagoda, he grabbed a young man and asked with a smile. It's you. The young man was a little angry at Qin Feiyang's rudeness, but when he saw Qin Feiyang's face, he became polite. Because now, everyone knew that Qin Feiyang had the oracle token in his hands. He also truthfully told Qin Feiyang the location of the martial arts treasury. Qin Feiyang thanked him, then rushed into the sky and rushed into the depths. According to the young man, the martial arts treasury was near the fighting arena, adjacent to the resource hall. And the guardian of the martial arts treasury was an old man surnamed Wang, whose strength was unfathomable. Everyone called him Elder Wang. A moment later, a tall stone pagoda entered Qin Feiyang's sight. The stone pagoda was modeled with a total of 10 floors. The door of the pagoda was closed, and Elder Wang was sitting cross-legged in front of the stone door. When he saw Elder Wang in person, Qin Feiyang was quite surprised. Which of the disciples and elders of the main pagoda wasn't dressed in bright clothes? However, this old man was dressed in shabby linen clothes, and his white hair was messy. Not only did he look ordinary, but he also gave people a sense of sloppiness. Greetings, Elder Wang. In front of the stone pagoda, there was a small square. Qin Feiyang landed on the square, walked in front of Elder Wang, and bowed. Although this old man looked ordinary, he didn't dare to underestimate him in the slightest. Because if he was just an ordinary person, why would the main pagoda master let him guard the martial arts treasury? One had to know. No matter where, the martial arts treasury was the most important place. Elder Wang slowly opened his eyes, looked at Qin Feiyang a few times, and stretched out his hand, "Give me the identity token." His tone was very calm, and his attitude was also very cold. Qin Feiyang took out the identity token and handed it to Elder Wang with both hands. Elder Wang looked at it, then returned it to Qin Feiyang, and said, "You only have half an hour. Qin Feiyang nodded. Elder Wang waved his hand, and the stone door behind him slowly opened. Qin Feiyang glanced at Elder Wang, then strode into the stone pagoda. Boom! The stone door also closed. Qin Feiyang turned his head to look at the stone door, then turned back to look at the front. In front of him was a completely sealed stone room, about a few feet in size. The four walls were neatly lined with black shelves. These shelves were not made of iron, but of stone, exuding an ancient aura. On the stone shelves, there were gray stone boxes, many of which were covered with a layer of dust. At this moment, there was a woman standing in front of one of the stone shelves, glancing at the gray stone boxes on the shelf, but her back was facing Qin Feiyang, so he couldn't see her face. Apart from these stone shelves and that woman, there was nothing else, and no one else. It seemed very empty and cold. Qin Feiyang glanced at them one by one, then turned his head to the side. Just beside him, there was a staircase. The staircase was also made of stone, leading to the second floor. But at the entrance of the second floor, there was a closed stone door. "Can't I go to the second floor?" Qin Feiyang whispered. "Yes, you can't go up." At this moment, the woman said without turning her head. Qin Feiyang was stunned, walked to the woman's side, and looked at her face. At this moment, he froze. This woman, fair and beautiful, wore a snow-white dress, and had a tall and exquisite figure. A pair of big eyes, crystal clear like black gems, shining with a charming light. Her long black hair draped over her fragrant shoulders, and exuded a faint fragrance. In short, this woman was very beautiful. However, this face was also very familiar. It was the woman Fatso fell in love with at first sight, Chu Xian. What a coincidence! Qin Feiyang muttered secretly, and said with a smile, "Should I call you Junior Sister Chu Xian, or Senior Sister Chu Xian?" Chu Xian had never looked at him. Hearing this, she was stunned and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. "It's you." At this moment, her beautiful eyebrows raised, and there was a trace of disgust in her eyes. This made Qin Feiyang puzzled. First, he had never offended her. Second, he had never bullied her. Why did he look at her like that? Qin Feiyang said with a faint smile, "Is there a misunderstanding between us?" "Humph. Have you forgotten? A year ago, what did your companion say about me?" "At that time, I was abandoned, but there is no need to explain it, right? In short, none of you stinky men are good." Chu Xian snorted coldly and turned to walk away. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. The companion that Chu Xian referred to was undoubtedly Fatso. "Miss, you have indeed misunderstood. At that time, my companion was just being kind and wanted to comfort you," but before Qin Feiyang could finish, Chu Xian suddenly turned his head and said, "I don't need anyone to comfort me." Okay. I won't say any more." Qin Feiyang waved his hand, his forehead hurting. Originally, he wanted to help Fatso save some of his image, but he didn't expect this woman to have a bad temper. He didn't ask for a rebuff and turned his head to glance at the stone boxes on the shelf. These stone boxes were all the same size and shape, but there were no signs or words on them. But obviously, inside the stone boxes, there must be jade slips. Then there was a problem. There were no signs. How could he choose? Purely by luck? Qin Feiyang pondered for a moment. Then, he grabbed a stone box. "Kindly remind you, think carefully before opening the stone box." At this time, Chu Xian's voice sounded. "Why?" Qin Feiyang was puzzled. "Because once you open it, you can't choose another stone box." Chu Xian said. "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded, looked at the stone box in his hand, and then put it back. Then, He walked to Chu Xian. You kindly remind me, which shows that you are also a reasonable person. So, you can't hate all of us men because of Guofeng. This is very unfair to us, you know. Qin Feiyang laughed. Don't mention him to me. Chu Xian said, her voice cold and piercing. Okay, I won't talk about him. Qin Feiyang nodded repeatedly, turned his head to look at the stairs, and asked curiously, how do I go up to the second floor? You have been in the main pagoda for a year and you still don't know? Chu Xian frowned. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I have been in seclusion for a year and didn't inquire about this situation. Seclusion for a year? Chu Xian looked at him in surprise and explained, there are a total of 10 floors in the martial arts treasure house. Except for the first time, which is free, you need contribution points to enter. What is contribution points? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked. Chu Xian said, contribution points are a virtual number, similar to the form of currency. Then how do you get contribution points? Qin Feiyang asked. Go outside and capture beasts alive. Beasts of different cultivation levels can get corresponding contribution points. Chu Xian said. There is such a thing? Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked again, why do you have to capture them alive? Can't they be dead? What's the difference? Of course there is a difference. Capturing them alive can prove that you captured them with your own ability. And those who died may be killed by you, but others may also help you kill them. Most of the disciples in our main pagoda are people with family backgrounds, so the higher-ups have to guard against this. The reason why you need contribution points to enter the martial arts treasure house is that the higher-ups use an alternative method to stimulate the fighting spirit of us disciples, as well as to cultivate our actual combat experience and combat awareness. Meng Xian explained. I see. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood. Indeed. Chapter 885. Because without actual combat experience, there is no chance of winning against people of the same level. In fact, even someone with a lower cultivation base than you could possibly kill you. On this point, the head pagoda was very thoughtful. Qin Feiyang asked, is it true that the higher you go, the better the battle art? It's not that the better the battle art, but the higher the chance of getting a perfect battle art. However, even if you go to the 10th floor, the chance of getting a perfect battle art is estimated to be 1 in 10,000. Chu Xian said. 1 in 10,000? Qin Feiyang was dumbfounded. The chances of that happening were extremely slim. Although many of our head pagoda disciples have perfect battle arts, their perfect battle arts are basically passed down from their own tribes. It can be said that people who can get a perfect battle art in this martial arts treasure house are very rare. Just like me, over the years, I have entered the martial arts treasure house, if not 100 times, at least 90 times, but the best battle art I got was only a superior auxiliary battle art. Chu Xian sighed. Then have you been to the upper floors? Qin Feiyang asked. I have been to the second floor. As for the 3rd and 10th floor, the contribution points required are too much, so I have never been there. Chu Xian shook her head. Qin Feiyang smiled, then in the future, if you don't mind, let's go hunting together. Just you? Chu Xian looked him up and down and shook her head after a while. Forget it, I'm afraid you will drag me down. I'll drag you down? Qin Feiyang's expression stiffened. He originally thought that since Fatso liked this woman, he would help her, but he didn't expect to be ridiculed. Chu Xian didn't say anything more, turned around and walked around before finally choosing a stone box. Qin Feiyang went up and looked at it curiously. But when the stone box was opened, Chu Xian, who was standing in front of him, disappeared without a sign. Qin Feiyang was shocked and quickly looked around. But in such a big first floor, Chu Xian's figure was nowhere to be found. Where did she go? Qin Feiyang was surprised and also grabbed a stone box and tried to open it. Immediately, he sensed a mysterious power enveloping him. Then, his vision blurred, and he appeared in a small square. Qin Feiyang hurriedly looked up and saw an ancient pagoda in front of him. Below the ancient pagoda, an old man sat cross-legged. It was Elder Wang. Chu Xian was there as well. At this moment, she was holding the stone box and standing beside Qin Feiyang. "It's out already?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "I forgot to tell you that once you open the stone box, the martial arts treasury will immediately send you out," Chu Xian whispered. Qin Feiyang's face twitched, and his heart was filled with bitterness. Previously, he had thought that something bad might have happened to Chu Xian, so he casually took a stone box. But he didn't expect this to be the case. Qin Feiyang looked at Chu Xian helplessly and asked, "Then what battle art did you get?" "Low-grade battle art," Chu Xian said disappointedly and walked to Elder Wang. She took out her identity token and handed it to Elder Wang together with the jade slip and the stone box. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. Although it was a low-grade battle art and was useless, it could be given away or sold. Why did she give it back to the martial arts treasury? After Elder Wang put away the jade slip and the stone box, he waved his hand again and a stream of light entered Chu Xian's identity token. Then, he returned the identity token to Chu Xian. Chu Xian took the identity token and didn't stop. She turned around and walked to Qin Feiyang's side. Looking at Qin Feiyang's suspicious face, she explained, "The main pagoda has another rule. If you encounter a battle art that you don't like, you can return it to Elder Wang. In this case, Elder Wang will return 1/10 of the contribution points. For example, I used 100 contribution points to enter the first floor. If I return the jade slip to Elder Wang, I will return 10 contribution points." "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded in realization. This kind of rule was quite humane. At least he wouldn't lose money. "Good luck," Chu Xian said coldly. She then turned into a beam of light and flew towards the warrior mountain range. "This woman is cold on the outside but warm on the inside." Qin Feiyang looked at Chu Xian's back with a faint smile on his face. Although they had been together for less than an hour, he knew a little about Chu Xian's character. She wasn't as bad as he first thought. Then, he retracted his gaze and opened the stone box. He saw a gray jade slip lying inside. It looked like an ordinary stone without any brilliance. Before looking at it, Qin Feiyang began to feel disappointed. Because generally, high-grade battle arts would have a bright color in the jade slip. However, he couldn't not look at it. He took out the gray jade slip and immersed his mind into it. A stream of information flowed into his mind. Battle art name, soul tampering skill. Level, no grade. What's with no grade? Qin Feiyang was confused. As everyone knew, whether it was martial arts or battle arts, they were divided into 4 grades. Upper, middle, lower, and perfect. But he had never heard of a gradeless skill before. With a stomach full of doubts, he continued to read. In the end, he found that he couldn't understand this soul-tampering skill at all. Overall, it felt like a complete paragraph had been erased so that people would not know what was written. It was the first time he encountered such a situation. He took the jade slip and walked to Elder Wang. He cupped his hands and said, "I have doubts in my heart. Elder Wang, please answer. Speak." Elder Wang spoke with his eyes closed. Qin Feiyang asked, "Is there a gradeless battle art in the world?" As soon as this question came out, Elder Wang's eyebrows twitched, but he didn't open his eyes. He said, "Did you get the soul-tampering skill?" "How do you know, Elder Wang?" Qin Feiyang was surprised. Elder Wang said, "Because in the entire martial arts treasure house, only the soul-tampering skill has no grade. Then what level does this gradeless skill represent? What kind of battle art is the soul-tampering skill? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. A gradeless skill means that it's inferior to an inferior battle art. As for what battle art it is, you'll have to comprehend it yourself. Of course, a gradeless battle art is definitely not very strong. You have to know whether to keep it or not. Elder Wang said. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang's face was full of bitter smiles. His luck was too good. He actually got a battle art that was inferior to an inferior one. If this were to spread, he would be mocked by countless people. After pondering for a moment, Qin Feiyang asked, if I return it to you, will I have to return the contribution points? Then let me ask you, did you ask for contribution points when you went in? Elder Wang asked. No. Qin Feiyang shook his head. That's right. You'll have to use your contribution points to return the contribution points. Elder Wang said. Forget it then, I'll keep it. Qin Feiyang put away the gray jade slip and handed the stone box to Elder Wang. Then, he sighed and got ready to leave. Get lost. But at this moment, an angry shout came from afar. Qin Feiyang looked over and saw two figures standing opposite each other in the void half a mile away. One of them was Chu Xian. The other person was a young man in purple. He was quite handsome, but very unfamiliar. The two of them seemed to be arguing about something. Qin Feiyang observed for a while. Seeing that the two of them had not stopped arguing, he turned into a stream of light and flew over. At the same time, Elder Wang opened his eyes and looked at Qin Feiyang's back. Two rays of light burst out of his eyes. Then, he took out the image crystal and poured his battle chi into it. Soon, a middle-aged man's shadow appeared. It was the chief pagoda master. Another little guy has obtained the soul refining technique. Elder Wang said, but he did not get up, nor did he bow to the chief pagoda master. The chief pagoda master was stunned and hurriedly asked, Who? Elder Wang said, It's the young man who has a good relationship with Lu Xingfeng. His name is a bit strange, called Ancestor Mu. Did he take it? The chief pagoda master asked. Yes. Elder Wang nodded. The chief pagoda master pondered for a moment and sighed, I only hope that he won't be like those people in the past and not know how to cherish it. Not necessarily. After so many years, there have been many people who have obtained the soul refining technique. Among them, there is no lack of talented geniuses, but none of them have been able to comprehend the true meaning of the soul refining technique. In short, it's best not to have too much hope. Elder Wang said. That's true. The chief pagoda master nodded and smiled, but we still have to pay attention. What if he comprehends it? Slim. Elder Wang said casually, then turned off the image crystal and closed his eyes. The place fell into dead silence again. Chu Xian, I was really wrong. Can you forgive me? I swear, I will treat you well in the future and never let you down again. Swear? Guofeng, do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? So easy to fool? Let me tell you, I don't want to have anything to do with you now, because you don't have the qualifications. Get lost immediately, as far as you can. And then there was Qin Feiyang. As the distance gradually shortened, he finally heard the content of the dispute between Chu Xian and the purple-clothed youth. It turned out that the purple-clothed youth was Guofeng. But wasn't Guofeng pursuing Pei Yi's cousin now? Why was he pestering Chu Xian? Qin Feiyang frowned, thought carefully, and soon understood what was going on. Swoosh! The corners of his mouth lifted slightly, and he sped up and landed beside Chu Xian. Seeing his arrival, Chu Xian and Guofeng also stopped arguing. Chu Xian looked at Qin Feiyang, raised her beautiful eyebrows, and did not say anything. However, Guo Feng's face darkened, and he said, I know who you are, and I also know that you are related to Divine Emissary Lu, but you'd better stay out of our business. Sorry. This person has nothing wrong with him, except for one bad habit. I can't stand seeing others bully women, especially such a beautiful woman. Qin Feiyang grinned. So, you're here to find trouble? Guo Feng said, his eyes flashing with a shocking cold light. Find trouble? There's no need for that. I'm just curious, haven't you already abandoned Chu Xian to pursue Pei Yu? Why are you now back to beg for Chu Xian's forgiveness? Qin Feiyang chuckled. His face was also filled with ridicule. Chapter 886. If you don't say it, then I'll guess. Is it because Pei Yu doesn't like you at all? Qin Feiyang laughed. Guo Feng still didn't say anything, but a trace of killing intent had already appeared in his eyes. Qin Feiyang didn't care at all, and continued, thinking about it, when your scorpion tribe was still around, Pei Yu didn't like you, let alone now that your scorpion tribe has been exterminated. Have you said enough? Guo Feng's eyes immediately turned blood red. Don't be angry, I'll just say one more thing. As a person, you have to have some conscience. Since you've already abandoned Chu Xian, then don't harass her anymore. Qin Feiyang said. Harass? With my status, it's her fortune to take a fancy to her. Guo Feng roared, somewhat hysterical. Chu Xian was also angry. However, Qin Feiyang reached out to stop her and looked at Guo Feng with a smile. If it was in the past, I wouldn't dare to deny what you said. After all, Chu Xian's family is only a small tribe. But now, other than the title of the King of the Third Peak, what else do you have? So get it straight, it's not that Chu Xian isn't worthy of you, it's that you aren't worthy of her. Qin Feiyang said with a smile. Guo Feng was about to explode. Don't deny it, it's the truth. Alright, stop pestering me. If others see you, where will you put your face in the future as the King of the Third Peak? Qin Feiyang waved his hand as if he was chasing away flies. Boom! The infuriated Guo Feng's aura suddenly erupted as he threw a punch at Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang shook his head and grabbed Guo Feng's fist. He smiled faintly and said, Don't ask for trouble. Although Guo Feng had already stepped into the peak of the Nine-Star War sect, he had also stepped into the Nine-Star War sect. He was confident that he could easily take down this person. Guo Feng was also very astonished that Qin Feiyang was able to easily block his punch. He glanced at Qin Feiyang, then glanced at Chu Xian. In the end, he withdrew his arm and said, You will regret this sooner or later. With that, he left angrily. Regret? The corners of Qin Feiyang's mouth curled into a meaningful arc. Who? In the meantime, Chu Xian also heaved a sigh of relief. She turned to Qin Feiyang and said, Thank you. It's a piece of cake. Qin Feiyang glanced at her, turned around and waved his hand with a smile. Then, he walked away. Back to Tower 1. Qin Feiyang happened to meet Mu Qing. But Mu Qing didn't say a word to him. She didn't even look at him. She just brushed past him. Obviously, Mu Qing was still brooding over what happened a year ago. Qin Feiyang naturally wouldn't use his hot face to stick to Mu Qing's cold butt. He directly returned to the alchemy room and was about to continue cultivating, but at this time, Mo Feng came looking for him again. And this time, Mo Feng's intention was to ask him to go to the trading pavilion with him. The reason was that the trading pavilion would auction the second Juku Yellow Dragon pill in the evening. Qin Feiyang was definitely not interested in this. Because the Juku Yellow Dragon pill was originally refined by him, he tactfully rejected Mo Feng. Mo Feng did not force him. After Mo Feng left, Qin Feiyang suddenly thought of the soul refining technique. He sat cross-legged in the cultivation room, took out the jade slip, and naturally started to read it. He had been struggling with a question. Was there a gradeless battle art in the world? As the son of the emperor of the great Qin Empire, he had some understanding of battle arts, but he had never heard of such a thing. No. Suddenly, a trace of bewilderment crawled up his eyes, because he thought of a suspicious point. He remembered. At that time, he asked Elder Wang what kind of battle art this soul-refining technique was, and Elder Wang's answer was to let him comprehend it himself. And this answer, at first glance, there was nothing wrong with it, but thinking about it carefully, there was a big problem. Because if this soul-refining technique was really a battle art that was worse than a low-grade battle art, then Elder Wang would not let him comprehend it at all. Because it was a waste of time. So he was thinking, could this be Elder Wang hinting at something? Qin Feiyang sat alone in the cultivation room, thinking for a long time. In the end, he still decided to properly comprehend this soul-refining technique. Although his guess might not be true, at least he had to figure out what kind of battle art this was. So, he closed his eyes, sank his mind into the jade slip, and calmed his heart to comprehend. At the same time, the East City district was once again flooded by the crowd. Especially near the trading pavilion, it was simply too crowded. Now, to enter the trading pavilion, even the people from the major tribes had to queue up. Li He was in the lounge, watching this scene through the window, and he was also grinning from ear to ear. "Grandfather, you must be overjoyed." Suddenly, Li Yan appeared out of thin air, hugging Li He's arm and giggling. "Of course." Li He laughed and then asked, "Have you seen that kid?" "No. I knocked on the door for a long time, but he didn't even respond." Li Yan pouted, very dissatisfied. She didn't pick the right time. When she went, Qin Feiyang happened to go to the martial arts treasure house. Naturally, no one would respond to her. "Silly girl, to deal with this kid, you have to be patient. But you have good taste since you can take a fancy to him. Because this person's future achievements will definitely be limitless." Li He rubbed Li Yan's head and smiled. "Take a fancy to him?" Li Yan was stunned. "If you don't take a fancy to him, why did you go to him?" "Yan, don't be shy in front of grandfather," Li He said. Li Yan wanted to cry but had no tears. Actually, the reason why she went to look for Qin Feiyang was purely to fight for justice for Li He. Because Li He waited for a full year for a Juku yellow dragon pill. But she didn't expect Li He's imagination to be so rich. In the evening, the auction finally began, hosted by Li He personally. The entire auction house was filled with the sound of bidding, and it lasted for half an hour before it ended. And the final winner was still someone Qin Feiyang knew, Pei Yi. Time flew by. The next morning, Qin Feiyang, who had been comprehending the soul-refining technique, suddenly opened his eyes, his face full of surprise. After a day and night of comprehension, he didn't manage to comprehend anything. It could even be said that he gained nothing. But because of this, he couldn't help but begin to suspect that this soul-refining technique might not be as simple as Elder Wang said. Because, in the past, even if it was a perfect battle art, he could thoroughly comprehend it overnight. But the soul-refining technique was profound and difficult to understand. This meant that it might be a very amazing battle art. However, he didn't continue to comprehend it. Because he had already told Mo Feng that he would go to the Long Feng house today. He put away the jade slip and got up to wash up. The alchemy rooms here all had a special place to wash up in the lounge. After washing up, he took out a brand new white robe and changed into it. This was the uniform of the disciples of the main tower. Immediately after, he walked out of the lounge, opened the stone door, and happened to see Mo Feng and Pei Yi walking out of their respective alchemy rooms. The moment the three of them looked at each other, they were a little stunned. Then, Qin Feiyang and Pei Yi smiled at the same time. As for Mo Feng, there was also a trace of a smile on his face, but it was still very stiff. For someone like him who didn't like to smile, it was too forced to smile. The three of them turned around at the same time and closed the stone door. Then, Pei Yi and Mo Feng took a step forward and landed beside Qin Feiyang. Pei Yi smiled and said, "Where's Qin Day? He should still be cultivating, I'll go call him." Mo Feng walked to the door of the number 9 alchemy room and knocked hard on the door. After a while, Mu Qing came out. However, when she saw the three of them, she only nodded at Pei Yi and Mo Feng with a smile, ignoring Qin Feiyang at the side. Pei Yi noticed this subtle change immediately and looked at the two of them suspiciously, but he didn't ask much. A proud person like him would not casually pry into other people's private affairs. Under Pei Yi's instructions, Mo Feng opened a portal and the four of them walked in one after another. Longfeng Pavilion. On the street in front of the door, there was an endless stream of people. Among the crowd, Qin Feiyang and the other three appeared out of thin air. Qin Feiyang looked around with a surprised expression on his face. It was still early in the morning, why were there so many people rushing into Longfeng Pavilion? The people rushing in from all the streets basically all entered Longfeng Pavilion. There were rich tycoons. There were people from the various tribes. There were also many disciples of the main tower. In short, those who entered Longfeng Pavilion now were all people of a certain status. As Pei Yi walked towards the restaurant, he smiled and said, "You guys don't know, but today is the day to sell Longfeng wine." Longfeng wine? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Now that he said that, he remembered that Longfeng Pavilion would sell a jar of Longfeng wine every month. It seemed that these people were all here for the Longfeng wine. Mu Qing glanced at Pei Yi and Qin Feiyang and secretly said to Qin Feiyang, "Come with me, I have something to say to you." Qin Feiyang glanced at him and sent a voice transmission. "If you have anything to say, can't you just send me a voice transmission? Cut the crap, just go." Mu Qing's gaze turned cold as he said impatiently. Qin Feiyang frowned and looked at Pei Yi and Mo Feng. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Senior brother Pei, senior brother Mo, Qin Day, and I have some private matters to attend to. You guys go in first, we'll be there soon." "Okay. I've already booked the room yesterday. It's in room 3 on the 10th floor. You guys can come up when you're done." Pei Yi stopped and looked at the two of them with a smile. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and then blended into the crowd with Mu Qing. Soon, they disappeared from their sight. "What is it that you have to hide from us?" Mo Feng asked with a frown. "Everyone has secrets that they don't want others to know. Why bother so much? Let's go." Pei Yi smiled faintly and led Mo Feng into Longfeng Pavilion. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing walked down the street. After a while, Mu Qing saw a deserted alley and walked in. "What are you trying to say?" Qin Feiyang frowned. Mu Qing did not answer and kept walking until there was no one around. She then stopped and stretched out her hand. "Give me my second grandpa's identity token." "Just for this?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. He took out the pure gold token and threw it to Mu Qing. Chapter 887. What's the matter? Tell me. Seeing that Mu Qing was serious, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but become serious. "Master." Mu Qing enunciated each word clearly, her eyes shining brightly. "Him?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and said in surprise, "You also found him?" It was Mu Qing who was stunned and said, "You already know?" "Yes. I met him in the 9th zone. It's the restaurant where you and your second grandpa found me last time." Qin Feiyang said. "He came at that time?" Why didn't you tell me? Mu Qing frowned. Qin Feiyang shook his head and said, would it make sense to tell you? Mu Qing said, of course it would make sense. I can send someone to stop him from entering the Central Divine Kingdom. What? You mean, he has already entered the Central Divine Kingdom? Qin Feiyang said in surprise. Mu Qing nodded and said, yes, I met him at the auction house of the Eastern City Trading Pavilion yesterday. Qin Feiyang was shocked and said, that's impossible. If he really went to the Eastern City Trading Pavilion, Fatso and Yen Wei should have found out. But why didn't I receive any news? Master has changed his appearance. Even if he stood in front of them, they wouldn't recognize him. Mu Qing pursed her lips with a touch of sarcasm. Qin Feiyang's eyes darkened. This was not good news. Now you don't have to worry. Although Fatso and Yen Wei work in the trading pavilion, they have also changed their appearances. As long as they don't show any flaws, Master won't recognize them. As for the Juku Yellow Dragon Elixir, Master will definitely think that it was made by you. But as long as he doesn't say anything, he won't be able to find out your current identity. Now I'm thinking, why did Master come to the Forgotten Land? Just for you? Or do you have other motives? Mu Qing's brows were tightly knitted, and there was an indescribable sense of irritation. Qin Feiyang looked at him in surprise and said, even if he has other motives, you don't have to be so worried. Nonsense. He is a false god, only half a step away from becoming a god. How can I not be worried? Mu Qing rolled her eyes at him. What about your Mu family? In the Forgotten Continent alone, you've continued for over 10,000 years. Could it be that you haven't given birth to a single fake god? Qin Feiyang asked suspiciously. Do you think it's so easy to create a false god? I might as well tell you the truth. In the Forgotten Continent, the strongest person is the 9-star Combat Emperor. False god? Never heard of it. Mu Qing said. So you're saying that if the Imperial Tutor makes a move, then wouldn't there be no one in the Forgotten Continent who would dare to fight against him? Qin Feiyang frowned. If you say that, then you're underestimating the Forgotten Continent. Although there are no false gods in the Forgotten Continent, we have divine artifacts. If we really fight, it's hard to say who will live and who will die. Mu Qing sneered. Qin Feiyang's eyes narrowed slightly. The divine artifact that Mu Qing was talking about, was it the gate of time and space? I've told you about this. In the future, be careful when you do things. Especially Li He. Make sure he keeps his mouth shut. If it's because of him that our plan is ruined, I'll make sure he dies without a complete corpse. Mu Qing's eyes flashed with a hint of murderous intent. Then, she went back the way she came and walked towards the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and muttered to himself for a while. Looking at Mu Qing's back, he said, let me see the Imperial Tutor's current appearance after his disguise. Mu Qing stopped and waved her hand. A shadow quickly condensed. It was an old man in a red robe. He had long fiery red hair and a strong body. Although his face was old, it was ruddy and looked very energetic. Wait for me for a while. I'll go and talk to Fatso and Yen Wei. Qin Feiyang looked at the shadow, then entered the castle and immediately took out the image crystal. At this time, Wolf King said, Little Qin Zi, I feel that Mu Qing is lying. Qin Feiyang was stunned and turned to look at Wolf King suspiciously. What I mean is that the content of his lie is not the Imperial Tutor, but a false god. I'm sure that there must be a false god in the Mu family. Wolf King said. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was curious. The Gate of Time and Space. If the Real Gate of Time and Space is really a divine artifact, then it must be a god or a false god to awaken it. Wolf King said. Heard it. Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered and nodded. You're right. We can't take the Mu family's heritage lightly. Buzz. As soon as his voice fell, Fatso's shadow appeared. Boss, do you want to have a drink? Fatso smiled. At this moment, he was sitting in an empty room. There were 2 pots of wine on the table in front of him and a few delicious dishes. Yen Wei was also sitting opposite Fatso. The two were eating and drinking, and their days were quite comfortable. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at Fatso and said, "If I were Li He, I would have fired you. Unfortunately, you're not. What's more, Li He can't wait to curry favor with us. How can he fire us? Tell me, what's the matter?" Fatso smiled and asked. Qin Feiyang said, "Do you know that the state preceptor also went to the auction house yesterday?" What? The two were clinking glasses. When they heard this, their arms trembled and the wine spilled all over the floor. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and the state preceptor's appearance appeared in the void. "This is what he looks like now. Pay attention to it. By the way, tell Li He and Li Yan that they can't mention the Juku Yellow Dragon pill to anyone. Also tell them to be careful. I'm worried that the state preceptor may use extreme means to force them to reveal my identity." Qin Feiyang said in a deep voice. Understood. The two looked at the state preceptor's shadow and nodded heavily. Their faces were also extremely heavy. They didn't expect the state preceptor to enter the central divine kingdom so quickly. For a moment, they didn't even have the mood to drink. Be careful. Qin Feiyang exhorted the two of them again before turning off the image crystal and leaving the ancient castle. Together with Mu Qing, he walked towards the Longfeng pavilion. Soon, they came to the front door of the restaurant. But as soon as they entered the restaurant, Qin Feiyang saw a familiar figure. It was a young man wearing a purple robe. He had a tall figure and exuded an extraordinary aura. The young man in purple walked to a waiter and asked with a smile, "Which private room is Pei Yi in?" The waiter looked up at the young man in purple and said with a smile, "Oh, it's young Master Gua. Young Master Pei is in private room number 3 on the 10th floor. I'm a little busy now, so you can only go up by yourself. Please forgive me for not serving you well." "It's okay." The young man in purple waved his hand and walked upstairs. "So it's Guofeng," Qin Feiyang muttered. Although the Dragon Phoenix house was very noisy at the moment, he still heard Guofeng's voice clearly. Looking at Guofeng's back, the corners of his mouth gradually curled into a mocking smile. In the past, no matter how busy he was, this waiter would definitely bring Guofeng up personally. But now, although the waiter was rather polite, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that he didn't like Guofeng. "Oh! Young Master Mu. Young Master Qin. What a rare guest." The waiter soon saw Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing and hurriedly scurried towards them with a fawning smile on his face. Back then, the feud between Qin Feiyang and Guoming started there. Hence, the waiter of the restaurant had a deep impression of the two of them. At the same time, Guofeng also heard the waiter's voice and turned to look at Qin Feiyang, after which a shocking and icy cold gaze flashed past his eyes. However, he didn't say anything and continued to walk upstairs. Mu Qing glanced at Guofeng suspiciously and secretly asked, "Do you guys have a feud with each other?" "We do have some personal feuds." Qin Feiyang expressed assent calmly. At this moment, the waiter asked, "Young masters, did you make a reservation in advance?" "Yes, we can go up by ourselves." "You may go ahead," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "All right then. Feel free to let me know if you have any instructions." The waiter nodded and bowed before turning around and scurrying away. His attitude was completely different from when he saw Guofeng. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing also headed upstairs. However, Qin Feiyang kept wondering, why did Guofeng go to look for Pei Yi? Soon, Guofeng walked to the door of the third private room on the 10th floor and reached out to knock on the door gently. Mo Feng was the one who opened the door. However, when she saw that it was Guofeng, she immediately raised her brows and asked, "What's the matter?" "Yes." Guofeng nodded. Mo Feng said, "Senior brother Pei Yi is entertaining a guest right now. Let's talk another day." Mo Feng, let him in. As soon as Mo Feng finished speaking, Pei Yi's voice sounded from the private room. Mo Feng frowned and retreated to the side. Guofeng strode in. Just as Mo Feng was about to close the door, she suddenly saw Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing walking up to the 10th floor and was about to greet them. "Shoo." Qin Feiyang gestured for her to keep quiet and shot Mo Feng a glance. Mo Feng was stunned for a moment before she understood what he meant. She turned around and half-closed the door before walking towards the tea room. In the tea room, Pei Yi sat in front of the coffee table with a calm expression on his face. His actions were steady and he exuded a domineering aura. Guofeng walked towards Pei Yi and said with a smile, "You really know how to enjoy life. Life is short. I naturally have to enjoy it when I have the chance. Please take a seat." Pei Yi smiled calmly. Guofeng walked toward Pei Yi and took a seat opposite him before scanning the room. The private room was not very luxurious, but it was simple and elegant. There was a separate dining room, bedroom, and tea room. However, at this moment, apart from Pei Yi and Mo Feng, there was no one else. Guofeng asked suspiciously, "Mo Feng, didn't you say that you were entertaining a guest?" "They haven't arrived yet." Mo Feng, who had just entered the tea room, heard Guofeng's question and said expressionlessly, "May I know who these guests are? They actually made Brother Pei host a banquet personally?" Guofeng's eyes lit up and he asked with a smile. Pei Yi smiled and said, "Let's talk about the purpose of your visit first." Hearing this, Guofeng fell silent, seemingly unsure of what to say. Pei Yi was not in a hurry. He picked up the teacup and slowly tasted it. A moment later, Guofeng gritted his teeth and looked at Pei Yi before saying, "To be honest, Brother Pei, I'm here for Pei Yu." Hearing this, Pei Yi was not surprised at all. Clearly, he had already known the purpose of Guofeng's visit. Chapter 888. Guofeng said, "Pei Yu hasn't accepted me yet, but I genuinely like her. She doesn't have to like you back just because you like her. Both parties have to like each other." Pei Yi smiled. "You're right, Brother Pei. However, feelings can be nurtured slowly. Give me some time and I'll definitely be able to move her," Guofeng said. Pei Yi looked at him in bewilderment and asked, "Since you're so confident, what are you here for?" "I want you to put in a good word for me in front of Pei Yu, Brother Pei. Everyone knows that you and Pei Yu are the closest to each other and she listens to you the most. As long as you're willing to help, things will be much easier." Guofeng stood up and said with a pleading tone, cupping his fists. "Ha!" Pei Yi laughed. Mo Feng, who was beside him, had a faint trace of ridicule on his face. Seeing this, Guofeng's eyes turned gloomy and he frowned. "Don't get me wrong, I'm not looking down on you. The Heavenly Scorpion tribe may have been exterminated, but I believe that you'll definitely be able to make a name for yourself in the future," Pei Yi said with a smile. Hearing his words, Guofeng's face finally relaxed. Pei Yi said, "I'm just thinking that since you, doesn't fancy you, we'd better let fate take its course. Don't force it." Guofeng frowned and said, "Brother Pei, you know me well. I've never asked anyone for help before. This is the first time. Then, you should know that I, Pei Qinghan, will never help anyone." Pei Yi chuckled. Guofeng's heart sank. He naturally knew Pei Yi well. He had long expected that to happen. However, he was still displeased. Pei Yi asked smilingly, is there anything else? He was clearly trying to chase Guofeng away. Guofeng's eyes lit up and he said, if I really manage to move Pei Yu, do you promise that you won't stop us? If you really love each other, why would I stop you? Of course, if your intentions are impure, it'll be a different story. For example, you might want to use the divine python tribe to fulfill your ambitions or plot something else. Pei Yi smiled. Guofeng's eyes lit up and he patted his chest. Don't worry, those things won't happen. Let's wait and see. Pei Yi smiled calmly. Seemingly reminded of something all of a sudden, he asked, I remember that you used to be with a woman named Chu Xian. I won't deny it. But a year ago, I had already severed all ties with her. Please don't worry, I will never do anything to hurt Pei Yu. Guofeng said. Is it really over? But before he could finish his sentence, a playful voice sounded from outside the door. Next. The door was pushed open. Qin Feiyang and Mu Qing walked in one after another. Who let you in? As soon as Guofeng saw Qin Feiyang, his expression changed greatly, and he immediately shouted with a stern voice. Mo Feng glanced at Qin Feiyang and Huang Xiaolong, and said coldly, I'm sorry, they are the guests we're here to entertain. What? Guofeng was dumbfounded. When did these two become so close to Pei Yi? Qin Feiyang walked into the tea room and nodded at Pei Yi. He then looked at Guofeng and said with a smile, are you very nervous and hesitant now? Guofeng's face was as cold as water. He secretly threatened, think carefully about what you should and shouldn't say. Qin Feiyang teased, then let's see if you can seal my mouth. What do you want? Guofeng asked in a deep voice. What can you give me? Qin Feiyang asked back. Guofeng secretly said, perfect battle art, pills, herbs, alchemy fire, whatever you want. Ah. Qin Feiyang was surprised and said telepathically, then I want 2 kinds of 6th grade alchemy fire and 3 kinds of 7th grade alchemy fire. Do you have them? Don't go overboard. Guofeng was instantly enraged. 2 kinds of 6th grade alchemy fire and 3 kinds of 7th grade alchemy fire. How dare this guy ask for it? Mu Qing glanced at the two of them and asked curiously, why are you guys looking at each other like that? Is there anything that you can't say in public? Hurry up and make a decision. Otherwise, I'll say it. You should know very well what the consequences will be if Pei Yi finds out that you went to look for Chu Xian yesterday. Qin Feiyang chuckled and sent a telepathic message. Initially, he just wanted to tease Guofeng and then tell Pei Yi everything that happened yesterday. However, he did not expect Guofeng to have alchemy fire. It would be a waste not to take advantage of the situation. Guofeng glanced at Pei Yi and the other two and said, I don't have a 7th grade alchemy fire, but I do have a 6th grade alchemy fire. I have it with me now. If you want it, I'll give it to you immediately. No, you have to have at least 2 kinds of 6th grade alchemy fire. Otherwise, forget it. Qin Feiyang refused flatly. Okay, I agree. But remember, you must keep your mouth shut. Otherwise, I won't let you off easily. Guofeng said. Of course. Qin Feiyang chuckled and turned to look at Pei Yi. Senior brother Pei, senior brother Guofeng and I have some private matters to discuss outside. Go ahead. Pei Yi did not ask anything, appearing extremely magnanimous. Senior brother Guofeng, please. Qin Feiyang turned to look at Guofeng again and gestured for him to leave. Goodbye, brother Pei. Guofeng cupped his fists at Pei Yi and turned to leave with Qin Feiyang. Not long after. Qin Feiyang returned to the private room, beaming with joy. Obviously, he had already obtained the alchemy fire. As for the remaining 6th grade alchemy fire, Guofeng had also promised that he would give it to him within 3 days. After Qin Feiyang closed the door of the private room and entered the tea room, Mo Feng looked at him and asked with a frown, "What exactly did you say to him?" "Definitely nothing good." Mu Qing sneered. "You talk too much." Qin Feiyang glared at him and then glanced at Pei Yi, only to see that Pei Yi was staring at him meaningfully. Qin Feiyang's heart skipped a beat and he wondered, did Pei Yi sense something? Fortunately, Pei Yi soon looked away. Dong. After a while, someone knocked on the door. 5 or 6 waiters entered the private room with some exquisite delicacies and 4 jars of dragon's wine. "It's a rare opportunity. Let's have a good drink today." Pei Yi stood up and greeted them. After 3 rounds of drinks, Pei Yi put down his wine glass and looked at Qin Feiyang with a smile. "Junior brother, do you have any thoughts about the position of the leader of the pagoda?" Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked in puzzlement, "Senior brother Pei, what do you mean?" Pei Yi smiled and said, "The Scorpion tribe has been exterminated and Guiyun is still the leader of the 3 pagodas. Doesn't that seem a little inappropriate?" Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted. Pei Yi's words were obviously laced with sarcasm. It seemed that this person was not as kind as he seemed on the surface. "Senior brother Pei Yi, do you mean that you want me to snatch the position of the leader of the 3 pagodas?" Qin Feiyang asked calmly. "Can you do it?" Pei Yi asked. "I'm afraid not. Although the Scorpion tribe has been exterminated, a starving camel is still bigger than a horse. My mental strength is only at level 11. I'm definitely no match for Guiyun. Besides, I've already entered the 1st pagoda. It doesn't seem appropriate to snatch the position of the leader of the 3rd pagoda." Qin Feiyang declined with a smile. He could tell that the so-called banquet this time was actually to discuss how to deal with the remaining members of the Scorpion tribe. To be precise, Pei Yi was using him as a tool. "Junior brother, since you don't want to, just take it that I didn't say those words." Pei Yi smiled. In fact, Qin Feiyang had also guessed wrongly. Pei Yi's purpose of doing this was not to use him as a tool, but to test Qin Feiyang's strength. This was because he had always suspected that the mental strength that Qin Feiyang tested by Elder Wu was not real. And if, now that Qin Feiyang had agreed to snatch the position of the leader of the 3rd pagoda, his guess was confirmed. After all, without a certain level of confidence, one would not dare to challenge Guiyun. However, now, because of Qin Feiyang's rejection, he began to hesitate. Was he really thinking too much? Dong! All of a sudden, a loud and clear bell sound exploded in the Longfeng pavilion. Ring! Chirp! At the same time, in the sky above the Longfeng pavilion, a golden divine dragon and a flaming phoenix appeared out of thin air. The dragon roared and the phoenix cried out. The 2 divine beasts danced in the sky and circled, emitting auspicious light. Just at this moment, the noisy Longfeng pavilion quieted down. "What's going on?" Qin Feiyang got up and walked to the window. Looking at the auspicious light, his eyes were filled with bewilderment. Pei Yi smiled and said, "When the bell rings, the dragon and phoenix cry together. This is the sign that the Longfeng wine is on sale." Qin Feiyang was stunned. He stuck his head out of the window and looked at the dragon and phoenix in the sky. He was speechless. The gimmick is quite big. The golden dragon and phoenix were not real divine beasts. They were just evolved from battle chi. If the gimmick is not a little bigger, who will pay for the Longfeng wine? However, the taste of this Longfeng wine is indeed not bad. Let's go out and take a look. Pei Yi smiled faintly and got up to walk towards the door. When the 4 of them walked out of the pavilion, the corridors of the various floors were already crowded, but it was very quiet. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the void on the top floor of the restaurant. In the middle of the void, there was a wine jar floating. There were a total of 10 floors in the Longfeng Pavilion. As for Qin Feiyang, he was currently standing on the highest floor. Thus, he was able to clearly see that wine jug. The wine jar was only the size of an adult's palm and was sealed with a layer of beeswax. There was no trace of wine fragrance seeping out and it looked very ordinary. Ding dong. Suddenly, a pleasant sound of a zither drifted out from the opposite room. The sound of the zither was melodious and clear. The rhythm was smooth and neither fast nor slow. It was like a clear stream flowing slowly by everyone's ears, calming them down unknowingly. Who exactly is this person playing the zither? Qin Feiyang looked at the closed door and muttered to himself. Then, he scanned the surrounding corridors. In the end, his gaze locked onto a certain place and he muttered, "He's here too." A young man stood there, wearing a white robe that was spotless. His black hair was like a waterfall. He had handsome facial features and a slender figure. His entire body exuded a unique aura. At the same time, there was a cynical smile on his face. Chapter 889. Qin Feiyang could also clearly see that young Master Hao was looking at the room where the sound of the zither came from with a trace of infatuation in his eyes. It seemed that the son of the chief pagoda master was very fond of the person playing the zither. Not long after the sound of the zither came out, a slightly plump middle-aged man in black walked out from the back hall on the first floor. Then, he soared into the air and stood in front of the jar of Dragon Phoenix wine. Next, he glanced at everyone in the Dragon Phoenix house and said with a smile, "I believe everyone can't wait any longer. But this time, this jar of Dragon Phoenix wine will not be auctioned." Not auctioning? The Dragon Phoenix house was in an uproar. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang also looked at Pei Yi in confusion. In the past, the Dragon Phoenix wine was sold in an auction. The highest bidder would get it. And this time, the rules should have been changed. Pei Yi said in a low voice with a trace of suspicion in his eyes. "Everyone, quiet down." The slightly plump man reached out and gently pressed the air. The Dragon Phoenix house quieted down again. Next, the slightly plump man took out a scroll from his cosmos bag. Then, with a slight shake of his arm, the scroll slowly unfolded. On the scroll, there was a vast land of mountains and rivers. There was a verdant forest. There was a towering mountain range. There was a rapid river. There were living creatures struggling to survive, and above the mountains and rivers, there was a lifelike five-clawed golden dragon. It was like an emperor looking down on the world with a ruthless and cold gaze. The rule this time is to write the true meaning hidden in this painting. Whoever's answer can satisfy this jar of Dragon Phoenix wine will belong to him, and it will be given to him free of charge. In addition, you will have the honor of being personally received by Miss and can make a request to her. The slightly plump man pointed to the room where the sound of the zither came from and smiled. Hearing this, the entire Dragon Phoenix house was in an uproar. Everyone looked at the room where the sound of the zither came from, their eyes filled with desire. Isn't it just a woman? What's there to see? I don't know what they are so excited about. Mu Qing pursed her lips. Of course they are excited. Because it is said that the person playing the zither is as beautiful as a fairy, but no one has ever seen her true appearance. Pei Yi smiled. Even young Master Hao has never seen her before. Qin Feiyang asked. Pei Yi glanced at Mr. Hao and said with a shake of his head, "No, that's what makes her so attractive." Qin Feiyang nodded. Young Master Hao was the son of the chief tower master. He came to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion almost every day. This kind of perseverance was unparalleled. But even so, he was unable to move the heart of the person playing the zither. The others were naturally even more curious and eager to see the woman's true appearance. The chubby man continued, everyone, you have to hurry up because you only have an hour. He had heard of it. Everyone looked at the painting again. 5-clawed golden dragon, mountains, rivers, and great earth, what does this mean? Could it be the descent of the heavenly dragon? Or the reincarnation of the heavenly dragon? Or is it the heavenly dragon destroys the world? Everyone fell into deep thought. Qin Feiyang was also looking at the painting. But for some reason, his gaze gradually turned cold. Noticing that Qin Feiyang was behaving strangely, Pei Yi turned to look at him and asked, Junior brother, have you thought of anything? Nothing. Qin Feiyang shook his head, and his cold gaze softened. Pei Yi looked at him in surprise and said with a smile, why don't you give it a try? I'm not very interested. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Mu Qing frowned and said, you have to give it a try. Why? Qin Feiyang was puzzled. Didn't you hear that person say that as long as the answer can satisfy the person playing the zither, you can make a request to her? And that woman is someone that young Master Hao admires. If she helps, young Master Hao will definitely do his best to help you become the disciple of the Chief Tower Master. Mu Qing said. Qin Feiyang narrowed his eyes slightly. Mu Qing's words made some sense. After pondering for a while, he looked at the chubby man and said, give me a brush and ink. At that moment, everyone looked at Qin Feiyang, including young Master Hao. At the same time, the chubby man was also quite surprised. Obviously, he didn't expect that someone would come up with the answer so quickly. Come here. Bring that young master a brush and ink immediately. Following the chubby man's order, 2 waiters hurriedly ran out from the back hall on the first floor. The 2 waiters were holding an exquisite tray in their hands. On one of the trays, there was a brush, ink, and inkstone. On the other tray, there was a blank scroll. The 2 waiters quickly ran upstairs and came to Qin Feiyang. They said respectfully, young master, please write your answer in the private room. They did this to prevent others from peeping. Qin Feiyang nodded and turned to enter the private room. The waiters followed him in and closed the door tightly. In the tea room, the 2 waiters put the trays beside the coffee table. One of them ground the ink while the other opened the scroll. Qin Feiyang closed his eyes, and there was a trace of pain between his brows. After a while, the 2 waiters each held one end of the scroll and laid it flat in front of Qin Feiyang. One of the waiters said, young master, you can write now. Swish! Qin Feiyang suddenly opened his eyes, grabbed the brush, and waved it on the paper. The whole process was done in one breath without the slightest sloppiness. Finally, 2 lines of vigorous words appeared on the paper. Furthermore, his words were all emitting a threatening aura. The 2 waiters were also shocked by these 2 lines of words. They couldn't come back to their senses for a long time. They never expected that someone would come up with this answer. When the ink was dry, the 2 rolled up the scroll and put it back on the tray. One of the waiters said, young master, the final result has to be decided by Mississippi. Please wait for a moment. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. Then, the 2 waiters left the private room with the scroll, brush, ink, and inkstone. Qin Feiyang didn't go out again. He sat alone in the tea room, as if he was thinking of something unbearable. His whole person was immersed in a kind of painful emotion. And outside, seeing the 2 waiters come out, everyone looked at the scroll. They were all wondering what was written inside. Young Master Hao's eyes flashed, and he said, prepare brush and ink for me. Men, quickly prepare. The chubby man shouted. Next. One by one, they thought of the most reasonable answer. Soon. Half an hour had passed. In the entire Longfeng pavilion, half of the people had given their answers. After the chubby man announced the end, he brought all the answers and entered the room of the person playing the zither. No one returned to the private room. They stood in the corridor, waiting for the chubby man to announce the results. Time passed breath by breath. After about 2 hours, the chubby man finally walked out of the room. He stood by the corridor and scanned everyone. Suddenly, he looked at the private room where Qin Feiyang was and cupped his hands. "Young Master Mu, please come out and have a chat with my family's young miss." "What? It's actually him." He didn't even think about it before giving the answer. How could he possibly obtain the young miss' favor? Everyone was in an uproar, filled with disbelief. Young Master Hao also frowned, obviously very uncomfortable. After a while, the door finally opened. Qin Feiyang slowly walked out, his entire being expressionless. Pei Yi turned to look at him and smiled. "Junior brother, you're really surprising. It's just a coincidence." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly, turned into a ray of light, and landed in front of the chubby man. The chubby man cupped his hands and smiled. "I am the manager of the Longfeng Pavilion, Pang Su." "Greetings, Manager Pang." Qin Feiyang also cupped his hands in return. Pang Su smiled and asked, "What about this jar of dragon and phoenix wine?" Qin Feiyang said, "Send it to my private room." "All right." Pang Su nodded, then turned and walked to the door. He pushed it open and smiled. "Young master, please come in." Qin Feiyang walked to the door and looked inside. There were no gorgeous decorations in the room, only some potted plants and murals. In the left corner, there was a bookcase, and every book was neatly stacked. Beside it was an ancient wooden coffee table, and there was only a chair placed on it. The chair was also carved from ancient wood. Although the decorations were not luxurious, it had a classical feel that made one feel comfortable. "Young master, please." Pang Su spoke again. Qin Feiyang glanced at young Master Hao, who was not far away, and strode in. Pang Su immediately closed the door. "Humph." Just as the door was closed, young Master Hao humphed coldly, turned around, and entered the private room without looking back. "Seems like this young Master Hao is very angry." Pei Yi chuckled. Someone who has been admiring for a long time is now in the same room with another man. If it were me, I would be angry too. But I'm really curious, what answer did Ancestor Mu write? Mo Feng looked at Mu Qing suspiciously. "Why are you looking at me?" Mu Qing frowned. Mo Feng said, "Aren't you very close to him? You should be able to think of his answer." After a moment of silence, Mu Qing's eyes lit up, and she said, "I do know his answer, but I can't tell you." Then, she turned around and entered the private room. Pei Yi and Mo Feng looked at each other in dismay. These two people were really extraordinarily mysterious. Back to Qin Feiyang. After entering the room, he smelled a faint fragrance. It was the fragrance of flowers. There were many blooming flowers in the room, but they were all snow-white and pure. However, there was also a woman's body fragrance in the floral fragrance, which was very pleasant to the nose. "Please have a seat." A clear voice suddenly sounded in the room, like an orchid in an empty valley, clear and pleasant to the ear. Qin Feiyang walked to the front of the tea table and sat on the only chair. Then, he raised his head and looked across. There was a snow-white silk curtain hanging on the opposite side, and through the silk curtain, he could vaguely see a guqin placed behind it, and beside the guqin sat a graceful figure. She was blurry and could not be seen clearly. "I have a question in my mind, how did you come up with this answer?" The woman's voice sounded again. "The reason is not important, as long as my answer can be approved by you. Don't you think so?" Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. The woman fell silent for a moment, then smiled and said, "You're right, young master. I've been rude. Please state your request." "My request?"